Live. Right, so I need to copy this link and send this over to Rich. Right, now Rich has the link. Now what I need to do is open it up in my channel and then copy that. Right. So all I need to do is pop out chat in this. I need to minimize that and I can put that over it so that the link would then be safe. Ricardo, are you there, Rich? Oh, I'm not
now here.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Good.
All right.
No feedback or anything?
No, we're good. I'm just going to pop out my chat so that I can get.
Well, we got a much better connection this time.
Yeah, Jamie's not got a great connection. Whereas that mine's a little bit better. So pop that chat out so I can see my chat. There's that. All right. So first off, apologies for everybody in chat that didn't see the time start because I got that wrong. I thought it was 9 o'clock start and it was 7. So technically we are a little bit late. Right. So you're in chat now and I can see you. Everybody can hear you. I just need to get OBS running so that it does what I want it to do. Just give us 1 second though. All right, so I want that. So let me just get my OBS set up because I should have had this done already, but it's not happened. So bear with me. We're nearly there now. What's that firing at? Oh, it's that. I'm just trying to work out which camera that is there. What is that little thing there? It's not that one. It's not that one. It's not that one. I'm trying to work out. Just give us a sec while I work this out because this is I wasn't ready for it actually because I thought it was 9 o'clock. I'm just trying to work out what this is here. Bear with me. So that's what that problem is there. So let me just refresh that. Properties on that. Refresh. Correct. Right, that one now works. Now we just need this one. So what I'll do is I'll put this one as the chat. So I'll need this as display. I need this as window capture. Set this up and it should be not that one. Is it that one? No, not that one. Nearly there. Okay, and now I just need to crop that image and then apply that to it. Need to apply that filter. Have you used this yet, Rich? Rich?
Yeah.
Have you used OBS yet?
No.
I'm just trying to get this bit that I need to add this filter. Bear with
me.
That's it there.
I don't even know what it is.
Filter, there it is.
Is there a way to send an image to you?
No, it's okay. I just got to crop this image so it gets rid of the height. So the top, mate, get rid of that because then nobody can see the link you see and it's still a full screen. Right, close that down. Perfect. Right, so now this should be what we see. So if I now screen share that, transition it over. Now you should now see in 10 seconds time, you got the chat link over. Right, so the public chat now should be a picture of me, picture of the back of me and picture of the outside street shot. But it's the chat link as normal. So what I just need to double check to make sure this is doing what it should be doing. I'll just nip to my channel and make sure that it's presenting the way it should be, and then we're good to go. We're live. So apologies for everybody that was ready for me before. I made a mistake. I thought it was a 9 o'clock start, and it was actually 7 o'clock start. So mute that so I can just keep an eye on it, and it should be now up to speed. I've got my drink sorted. I've been to the toilet. We're good to go. What do you see on screen now, Rich?
Let's see. Just you.
Right. So
I don't see anything behind you, or I just see your regular setup.
All right. Do you now see anything different?
No. What is the OBS?
It's basically the reaction to trolling. The way trolls have been recently while you've been away, they've just been really heavy. Actually, it's working fine the way it is actually because there's no link on display, so it doesn't really make any difference. We can carry on like this. This works fine. Although I did wonder why OBS is just it's a mask that works behind the scenes, so you can put like text on the screen and you can put multiple camera angles. I really want to show it you actually because it's really pretty cool, but for some reason it's just not having it. So if I order that to the front, it's because I'm doing it on that thingy, isn't it? It's because I'm doing it on a pre-scheduled hangout. It's all right. It'll have to go this way. It's fine. And there was just a better way to do it. It's just a different. If you go back to my hangout from earlier on today, where I was playing music, you'll see it. It's just basically it's a different format, and it just allows you to do different stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So the purpose of today's hangout is just really to welcome you back to Flat Earth because you've been off the scene for that long. We've missed you, or I've missed you for certainly. Tell us what's happened. What's been happening recently? You've moved house. You've got ill.
Yeah, I moved my house. Didn't have internet for about 10 days. That was a big problem. Then ended up with a big infection. Went to the hospital and getting treated there, getting put on antibiotics. And that was one of those things where usually after you take antibiotics for about 3 days, you start feeling better. Mine took about 8 or 9 days. So just in the last day or two, I've considered myself back to 100% and just trying to stay cool in the 115 degree Arizona summer. And not a good time to have a fever when it's 115, but I I'm back.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you're back because, as I was saying in
I
Jamie's chat,
appreciate it. Yeah.
as I was saying in Jamie's chat before, you're one of the first people, one of the first flat earthers that content I used to watch all the time, because at the time you were piggybacking with Jeranism, and kind of what he did one week you would do the next, and what you would do one week he would do the next. It kind of went like that for a while, and then I realized that myself, I'm gonna have to go out and test this, because every time you find a flat earth video that says one thing, you'll find a ball earth video that says the opposite, or give a logical and reasonable explanation for it, and then you just don't know which is true. So I realized that I'm gonna have to go out and do it myself, which is exactly what I did. And I realized that the curve just does not appear to be there, although I do concede and admit wholeheartedly that I have had a variety of results, because sometimes the atmosphere really does stop us seeing that which we should be seeing. And the question becomes, are you looking at the opacity of the atmosphere, or are you looking at something else like bendy light? And I realized after I was doing it for a while that it wasn't bendy light I was looking at, it was just literally the atmosphere itself. And on that basis, the earth cannot be curved, because it's the only thing that's stopping me from seeing what I wanted to see was the moisture in the atmosphere and nothing else. There was no bendy light. It's always the same that I see it. So time went by and I met up with Ranty Rant, and we were doing experiments using the P900, and it was really good, because we were both learning and we were both seeing things that were really neither explained on ball or flat, but were just the way that they were. And then one day I saw that you'd put a video back up after being offline for ages, and it was to do with Pac-Man, the Pac-Man model. And I was like, whoa, where's this come from? What's he on about? So I was like, this doesn't make any sense to me. And you're not the best at responding to messages, although you do usually respond to me, and I'd have to just credit you for that. But it always takes you like 2 or 3 days, so I'd never get a coherent conversation out of you via text or via email. But I mean, the reason why I've brought you in today is because really I kind of want to know what the evidence is that you accept that makes the Pac-Man model even feasible, because my view on it is it doesn't make logical sense that you could Pac-Man across the world. What is the evidence that you accept? I mean, I'm not having a go at you in any way, but what is the evidence that you accept for Pac-Man?
First of all, let me predicate all this, but with a couple of things. The first thing is I'm open to the model. I'm not saying that the Pac-Man model is the model. It's just the one that makes the most sense to me at the moment. And I'll explain why here in just a second, if I can share my screen. But anyway, the main reason is really because I was in the Navy and pretty much circumnavigated the globe, or the Earth, or the Pac-Man, whatever you want to call it. And this whole circular route of the sun and circular route of how the continents are laid out just does not jive with when you're out on the seas. And let me also predicate it by saying that I don't want to hammer it too hard, because I don't want to give fodder that's for globe earthers to use when it's not stuff that they really could use. But you know how it is. They'll twist it and say, oh, see, this is really saying a ball, when that's not what I'm saying. So I'm not going to divulge everything that I'm thinking of right now, because I know what people will do. They'll run with it, and until they understand it all, or until I can explain everything that I'm saying, I don't want to release it all. But to me, a straight path of the sun looking through or shining through a glass or whatever is the model that I see that makes the most sense right now. I think we can screen share on here, correct?
Yeah.
All right, let me see if I can do this.
Yeah, and then let me know when you're ready. Just make sure you hide the link at the top so that the link can't be seen.
Okay.
So I'll keep talking while you do it, so that you.
Okay, I've got Paint open, so there's no link there.
Okay, so if I share your screen now, everybody should then see it. All right, we're looking at dots.
Looking at dots. I'm sorry if I can't make this. Well, I can make it bigger. You know how everybody talks about you can't.
It's full screen.
You can see it okay?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. You know how everybody says, they want to use the airlines to say, that these places are further apart and they just don't make sense with the traffic patterns and different things like that. For example, the person over here that took off from Taiwan or Vietnam, wherever it was, and landed in Alaska on their way to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
That actually makes sense if you're going to say it's a Great Circle route that they have to take. In fact, these ships right here are taking the Great Circle route, you could say right here, except it's just a typical shipping lane where you're going to have stop-offs in the bottom part of Alaska there. But my point is, look at these ships in the southern hemisphere. They're going the way we want to say aircraft never go. And when you actually click on some of these, and I'll find the link, and so people can go and look at this, but all you have to do is do a Google search for live shipping traffic around the world. And there's several different sites like this. You can actually click on one of these dots. It'll give you the ship, not all of them, but it'll give you the ship where it took took off from, where it is, which is a story in itself too. That should have triggered that we were on a flat Earth a long time ago when I was in the Navy, but it just didn't. And that is, let me just say it before I forget it. I was shocked when I worked in the weather office because we had GPS back then. Now this is early in the 1980s, and it gave us our latitude and longitude. What surprised me was we fetched out to get our latitude and longitude. We weren't receiving anything. We transmitted out first, and depending on how that signal came back, told us our latitude and longitude. So I remember thinking at the time that was weird. I thought we were receiving from a satellite, or satellites, and it was triangulating and giving us a position. The opposite was true, which tells me that's not really a satellite now that I'm thinking about it. But here's the bottom line. The bottom line is I went through the Suez Canal like these ships are all going through here. We stopped off in Kenya, and we went to Australia, Perth to be exact. We came back. We went through the Med, and here's the one that always gets me. Going from Straits of Gibraltar to Norfolk, we always tried to break the speed record. Whatever it was, I can't remember. It was like 3 days and so many hours to try to get across the ocean. And we would take the most direct path, of course, to do that. And you would do that anyway to try to save fuel. The aircraft carrier that I was on, the USS John F. Kennedy, check this out. It was the largest conventional aircraft carrier. It was supposed to be a nuclear-powered one, but they rushed it because of the Vietnam War and kept it conventional. That thing got 3 feet to the gallon. So you definitely tried to take the most direct route so that you didn't have to constantly refuel. We were refueling every 3 days anyway, bringing on millions of gallons every time we did. Millions of gallons of diesel for the ship and jet fuel for the aircraft. But you'll notice these paths that these ships are taking and where they're going correctly for a Mercator style, Peterson style, whatever you want to call it, Earth, not a circular path that they show the sun going, and you would always have to take that circular path going across the Atlantic, sort of a reverse Great Circle route.
So
this has always bothered me since I've been in this, that we, like, for going from Gibraltar here over to Norfolk, even when we plotted it on the map, it was a ruler straight line, no great circle. I remember feeling like a fool because I would tell the guys, watch this, we're going to take the Great Circle route to try to beat the record. And we took a direct path, which tells me it's not a ball now. I didn't think that deeply about it then. But that's one of the main reasons is ships don't act like it's a circle.
But also, there's 2 things I would comment there. I mean, I've never seen this before. We've not had any pre-scripted talk, pre-hangout talk. It's gone live straight from Jamie's. But what I would observe there is that if you look around the south side of South Africa, them boats appear, based on this information, that they are doing exactly what the planes say that, or the planes don't seem to be doing that on either model because of the distances involved. But what you're saying is that the boats do appear to do that according to this information. So therefore, I would question, well, where's this information come from? Where have you got this from?
This particular site, and this is how you can tell they're live, because the ships actually shoot it out, the information. Now, before I get off this screen and find the link for you, some of these down, you see these green ones down here? I don't know if you can see my cursor or not.
Yeah.
You'll see these are going straight across.
Yeah, they are.
And they would not do that on the model we show, nor the way they do. Now, many of them do go like we say the planes do, but that's because major ports are that way. They're not the other way. So if you're going from Argentina, you're almost always going to be going north somewhere unless you happen to be going across, and some of them do. They don't do what we would show on a flat Earth map. Here's the other thing, too. The sizes of the continents are ridiculous on the round map. Australia is bigger than Russia.
Yeah, I agree. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to knock you off present mode whilst you just do us a favor. Just go back to I'll present me so that it doesn't flick over while he's speaking. But okay. You know the actual chat hangout link, the one that's mainly black, just minimize that so it's out the way so that it never pops back up again.
This thing right here?
Just minimize your paint, and then you'll have the chat window, which nobody can see at the minute because I'm presenting. The one, the main hangout window that me and you were talking in?
Yeah, that's actually on Google over here.
Yeah, minimize that one there. Minimize that and never open that again, because that's the one that people can snipe us with, and I don't want to get sniped on this one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when they get the address bar on the top of that, that's where they can snipe. So as long as you leave that one and never open it again, we're good. So I'll stop presenting me, and now maybe just show us the authority for that, what that reference was that you just cited there, because I do find it interesting that the boats do appear to be making the trips that the planes are not making. And then I would ask, do you have an explanation for why the planes wouldn't make it, but the boats would?
Why the planes wouldn't make it, but the boats? Well, because I think most of the planes are going to major destinations that people are going to. You've never heard me do a video on plane traffic, I don't think. And that's because it's one of those things I can't verify myself. And these trips from South America to Southern Africa, for example, are so rare, or from Australia to wherever. I just can't verify it. And because several people have said that they have taken those flights and they do exist.
Now, I noticed on that one you got open there, it says tanker, position received via satellite. Well, on a flat Earth, there are no satellites, right? So that can't be the case. But they also need a land.
Right, but check it out. Receive. These ships are transmitting out.
Go on.
That's what got me back in 1980. It did make sense to me. Now, what they're doing is they're obviously transmitting to places that can receive it, and then they get a triangulation, and so they can tell when they send a signal back, which tells them where their position is. In fact, it's a reflection of their own signal that comes back. But this got me back in the early 80s. Of course, I wasn't thinking about flat Earth or anything like that, but it really threw me that we were transmitting out instead of receiving a GPS.
Hang on, there's an issue here because we know that satellites don't exist on a flat Earth because there's nothing orbiting us. They may exist in a helium balloon, but as far as we're aware, there's nothing over the oceans that allow boats to be tracked, because if there were, we would never have lost flight MH370, ML370. So there can't be satellites covering the southern oceans, because otherwise MH370 either didn't exist or the satellites don't exist to cover it. So if they're saying that the satellites position received by satellites, if there's something tracking it over the southern oceans, then MH370 shouldn't have gone missing, right?
Unless MH370 wasn't transmitting out. That's what I'm saying. The way you find out where these things are is the reverse of what people think. Okay. If MH370 was not transmitting its position, nobody would know where it was, unless it was on radar.
Yeah, but I find it unlikely to.
You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do, but I struggle to accept that a Boeing that's worth, I don't know, 20 million or whatever they're worth would not have a GPS coordination thing that didn't allow it to be switched off automatically or manually. You would expect the planes, if they were to be able to be tracked in the oceans, you would expect that to be something that they couldn't turn off, because, I mean, let's be honest, if you were Boeing, you wouldn't want to lose one of those planes no matter what, right? So I'm struggling with the fact that...
No, unless somebody... Now, if you want to get conspiratorial, unless somebody wanted it to disappear.
My question at this point is, why is Marine Traffic Globe, or marinetraffic.com, why is that showing tracked boats in the southern oceans, when on the planes that doesn't exist, but on the boats it appears to? My question would be, well, why is there a contradiction between the two? Because it really shouldn't be like that on a ball model. Why is it the boats are getting it but planes are not?
I can't answer for the planes, but I know being on a boat why you can see them, because you are transmitting out by radio. And here's the deal: we're turning all the time. You have to turn into the wind to launch or recover. You're always doing maneuvers where you're turning. There's no satellite dish on the freaking ship that's turning to stay locked into the satellite. It would never do it anyway, because you're constantly changing position. Well, at least not constantly, but you know what I mean. Unless you're doing that route across the thing straight, you're constantly changing directions on the ship. So nobody's sitting there with a GPS, with a satellite dish, making sure it's pointed so you can keep getting your signal. That's another clue that should have...
Agreed, but there's a comment in chat here which I want to read and just comment on it whichever way you see fit. It says, they are transmitting to the AIS system. In that transmission includes a GPS location. Rich would not have had GPS in Vietnam. I don't know whether that's a fair comment or not, but AIS, do you know what AIS is?
No.
So there can't be an answer to that. Maybe somebody knows more than what we do. But my query on it is that if planes are able to do that but boats are not, I would question the accuracy of, because the issue on this is, how long does it actually take for a boat to get from South Africa to South America, or South Africa to what looks like bottom end of Thailand? Because it doesn't look like many of them are going to Australia. But how long does it actually take, and is it being misrepresented? Because if the Earth is flat, that's a huge distance, and it wouldn't make sense that most boats would go that way. It would make sense that they would, well, kind of do a Great Circle route kind of thing, because they'd want to stay. I mean, you wouldn't want to sink a boat over there either, but then again, you'd want to go the short route. So are you going to gamble, and is it considered to be the most riskiest of routes because you're miles away from anywhere? So I don't know. My gut reaction would be, how's anything satellite providing this information? But also, could we verify that it was even true? Because it would be good if we could get a boat that left, I don't know, the south of Africa and it ended up somewhere near Brazil, and check how long it actually took. So then we could calculate its apparent distance based on its apparent speed and see whether or not it's viable on a ball Earth. Because these routes really shouldn't exist if it really is a ball, because the distance.
We should actually be able to do that with this if you got the patience to do it.
See, that's. I mean, I'm guessing you've not done it with any of them, have you not?
No, but here's the thing. I have been on a ship and plotted our position every 3 hours. We plotted our position where we were and where we are now. And I know for a fact that the shortest distance on that, the shortest distance between Gibraltar and Norfolk is a straight line, not a great circle route, which it should be on a ball. We were trying to break the record, and we went ruler straight line across. And I can also tell you that when we plotted, for example, coming out of the Suez Canal to go to Australia, well, actually, we went down to Kenya first, then we went to Australia. But from Australia, we went right back to the Suez Canal. There was nothing unusual on the maps other than it was always a straight line.
Well, AIS means automatic identification system used for tracking ships. I don't know how ships could be tracked if planes cannot. That seems to be a contradiction in terms to me.
Well, I do know, like I said, I do know how ships are tracked. The ship itself transmits where it is.
To what, though? What receives it?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm sure troposcatter's used to where you just shoot it to a certain part of the sky. And see, I have no doubts that we have the technology to push radio waves from West Africa to the East Coast of the United States. I'm sure we can do that.
If we're to accept this evidence as credible, it comes from marinetraffic.com. It means that the planes could, in theory, take the same routes, but the planes don't seem to be doing
yeah, but see, I can't verify a plane unless I'm going to flop down $5,000 or whatever, but I can verify ships do not take a great circle route, and the Mercator style map we used made sense when we plotted it.
I'm just reading the chat. It says, have Rich check the services tab on the website. You will see AIS. Let's try that. Can you see the services tab? I don't know where the services tab is. I'm just reading it from text, so maybe it's
okay. Let me see.
Because I don't believe for a minute that they've received that via satellite, them tracking data by satellite, because if that was true, then we would never have lost them.
No, they're saying satellite, but it's not really satellite.
Well, I don't know, because they're saying you got to accept it on face value, but if it was on face value accepted, then MH370 would never have gone missing. So it means that either MH370 didn't go missing in the first place, or it's not being tracked by satellite. So that causes a conflict for me, because, right, to be fair...
Well, if I remember correctly, MH370 went missing where, what's that little island in the Indian Ocean?
Well, it made a turn, didn't it? And they don't know whether it's...
U.S. owns it. It's in here. They should have been able to pick it up.
Yeah, they should have been able to pick it up. But the argument is that they couldn't pick it up because it went deep into the...
No, I think they turned it off. I think it was purposely turned off. That's the only way you don't get tracking.
Or the plane never took off the way they told us it did.
That's true. I don't know what the deal is with that, but to me, that smells conspiratorial all around it.
Yeah, I mean...
The whole thing.
Right, he's saying towards the top of the map, there's a tab that says services.
Well, it says cookies are local storage to help us deliver service. By using our service, you agree to our use of cookies on local storage.
Is it a flaggy thing in the top right-hand corner below the minus sign?
This thing? Standard map, simple map, satellite map, open street map, nautical maps.
Now, we're trying to find the services tab, but to be fair, I can't actually see it, so unless we get quicker info. So, okay, so forget services for the minute. How credible do you consider this evidence to be?
Very credible. I mean, I did it myself. Okay, that has always bothered me, even since I've been in it. Since I've been in flat Earth, this round model has bothered me because of the straight lines we took. If you take a flat, let me pull up a flat Earth map or a circle. Yeah. Imagine. Well, forget about imagine. Let's do it.
Just make sure you don't hit that Google Hangouts link. Right. The other thing I would remind folk of is Mark Sargent had an interview with there was a US missile instructor, and he said that when you travel in the Southern Oceans, the distances are huge. They're not a few hours out. They are days out. So when you're flying or when you're traveling across the Southern Oceans, they would often spend a lot of time being delayed behind time, because it would take like 5 days according to trigonometrical math, but then it would like take 7 before they actually got there, and they blamed it on
the problem with us in the Indian Ocean, and that would have been the area to really tell. They have this thing in the Navy where they used to, if you were 60 days in a row out at sea without hitting a port, you could have 2 beers, and that was always available in the Indian Ocean because you'd probably be 60 days, not because you couldn't get somewhere in 60 days, but because we would just go around in circles forever.
Yeah, boxing.
Near that island. I can't think of the freaking island.
You're on about Diego Garcia?
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know why it's... Yes, Diego Garcia. Diego Garcia should have picked up and been able to track that aircraft the whole way.
Well, do you remember that there was a guy pilot apparently sent a black photo message, and it was from the GPS coordinates were apparently from Diego Garcia. Do you remember that?
Yeah, that makes sense. And Diego Garcia is extremely, what's the word? It's an advanced area. There's a lot of secret stuff there. It's very developed by the U.S. Navy. A lot of people do not know a lot of the stuff that's on that island. So the fact that Diego Garcia, I heard on some news channel, whatever, Diego Garcia didn't have the equipment to track it the whole way. That's bunk.
Rich, do us a favor. Go back to that marine traffic tab that you had open.
Okay.
And then he said, get rid of the, just click got it at the cookies thing at the top. And there should be something called services at the top. If we don't find it now, I'm not going to spend any more time on it because it clearly isn't there, but I don't see it.
Services.
And he said in there, there you go, satellite AIS. So that's what he said would be there. So let's click that and see what that says. Improve fleet monitoring. Track any fleet around the globe using satellite AIS data, which is seamlessly fused with our coastal data. Coastal. So what I wonder is, see, we've got vehicle data. We've got vehicle tracking on our vehicles. And when they do lose signal, which they should never do on a satellite controlled ball Earth, they do lose signal. And then what happens is it'll store the position of where it is locally on the device. And then the next time it gets a signal from a GPS position locator, it'll buffer the information until it gets the signal and then send it all back. So it looks like it's never lost signal. But when we do live tracking, it doesn't exist. So we know that even on like land that's covered with loads of satellites coverage and clear views to the sky, we do get blackouts. And it only
it's just like when you launch a weather balloon. Yeah, same thing. You get about 10,000 feet, you lose your freaking tracking. Makes no sense.
So my question is, how reliable is this AIS data? Because I mean, that's showing that you can go directly, kind of directly from. It looks like
this would be the one. This would be the one. Would this make sense from Buenos Aires? I mean Rio.
Yeah.
To South Africa. I mean, this is definitely a well-traveled route according to this.
So in terms of Pac-Man model, what does this tell you?
Well, let me go back to this first. I thought I blew this up. No, let's do it again.
Yeah, you normally have to click view image.
Here's the other thing too. I'm not going to go with anything that can't be backed up biblically, and I can back this up biblically. In fact, I was kind of surprised I could.
Yeah, view image, and that should make it big. There you go.
All right. Now, what I was talking about, that Gibraltar to Norfolk. Here's Gibraltar.
Yeah.
Here's Norfolk right here. Can you see if you wanted to go in the straightest line on this kind of map, you'd have to be constantly turning right.
Yes.
You'd be constantly going a curve. No. That's not what you do. You go straight. I mean, Tony, literally, you take something like this, a flat edge, and lay it down, and till just before you get to Norfolk, it's a direct straight line. The only time it changes just before Norfolk is because you have to turn into the wind to launch the aircraft to get rid of them, because when aircraft carriers pull on the port, they never have aircraft on board. That's the only deviation we have when we were trying to break the record. And it would have made more sense on this map to make that curve to go. Any 2 points we ever went, Tony, it was a straight line, except when you were doing aircraft maneuvers, that would screw it up.
Rich, I've just noticed that Tim Osmond's in chat. I just want to give you a little shout out to Tim Osmond.
I cannot provide proof to anyone about the shape of the Earth.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Great. So that's Tim dealt with. Should be quiet for the rest of the night now, because Tim can't provide any proof for anybody about the shape of the Earth. But would you agree?
Well, I can't either. I can eliminate shapes.
Yeah,
I can eliminate.
I'm in the same position. I can eliminate positions, but I can't prove what we do live on. But would you agree on that image that you've got on screen right now that the positions from like Sao Paulo and Brasilia or Rio make sense if you were going to South Africa, because it matches the image that we had before, going from the east coast of Brazil down to the south coast of South Africa. That matches.
Here's the problem. Look how big South America is.
Yeah.
North America is bigger than South America in reality.
By
I think 25%.
Yeah,
I could be wrong on that.
I agree. That does look massive compared to North America.
I don't know. Look at Australia and look at how many. You remember Hitler's army? They just kept marching and marching and marching, and it never ended. That's how big and vast Russia is. And here you got Australia. The people who live in Australia, is it 5 times wider than it is tall, or even more than 5 times?
Massive, don't they?
Well, look. I mean, to be fair, in cartography has its inaccuracies. Every one. There is no map that can be done unless you make an actual size representation of it that's accurate. The farther you get away from the starting point or the center point of the map, the less accurate it becomes. So if you make the North Pole the center point, the further you go away, and this is what I was telling Tiger Dan, when he was getting into this map, I immediately shot him an email, said, wait a minute, you're going to have to take into account that the farther you get away from the center point of the map, the more inaccurate it's going to get. So don't be surprised by the time you get down to Australia, South America, southern part of Africa, that it's off by quite a bit.
Could that not equally support
And
the globe model?
What's that?
Could that not equally support the globe model?
Could what support the globe model?
To keep the size of America and South Africa and South America, to keep them in relative proportionate size to each other, then if it was getting hugely distorted on a flat map, then it makes sense that it would be because it's not flat, right?
The problem is, if this was a globe, wouldn't fix this. The reason is you'd still have to do the great circle route to go to the shortest distance.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. A globe wouldn't fix it because it would be distorted in the middle. It would be short. It would be probably matched up in the south, and in the north, but in the middle it'd be all stretched.
Here's one that fixes it, though.
Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Comment in chat says, have Rich compare the Argentina to Australia shipping paths on the Gleason's map compared to the Mercator.
Gleason's map? That's the one we just had up?
Compare that to the Mercator, though, when you're going from Argentina to Australia. This is the bit where I said I'd like to know the journey times, because it wouldn't surprise me if the journey time looked small on the map that you showed, but were in real life huge.
Okay, where are we going from Argentina to where?
Australia, he says.
Okay, well, this is interesting.
While you're doing that, I just feel the need to do this again, so let me just turn this up again.
I cannot provide proof to anyone about the shape of the Earth.
So we'll just leave that one there for now. He's been timed out for 30
Is there a reason for that comment?
Yep, because he's been a dick with me recently, and he thinks he hasn't. He thinks I've been a dick with him, but it's not the case. One of my mods might have been, but it wasn't me, but he blamed me for it and spat his dummy out and disappeared. So it's just my way of trolling him back.
Okay, so we're going from Argentina to where?
Australia. Have Rich compare the Argentina-Australia shipping path on the Gleason's map against the Mercator map.
On the Gleason's map, it's a hell of a way to go either way.
Argentina to Australia. Yeah, that's a huge distance on the Gleason's map.
I mean, it's like pick your poison. You might as well go this way so you at least have some land you could stop at. Here, you'd have nothing forever.
Well, the only thing you'd have would be Hawaii, right? And Diego Garcia.
Yeah, well, you've got a lot of little cannibalistic islands out here you could stop.
See, this is my view on it. I don't believe there's any way of tracking anything once it goes over the Pacific. Once you get out of the landmass, until you get towards Diego Garcia and Hawaii and the other islands that are around that area, there is no land anywhere near you. And if satellites are the way they tell us, like this thing that orbits the Earth, it would have to be over the Pacific Ocean. And they say that they don't put them there because they're geocentric. So it's like, so if there are satellites, there's nothing over the Pacific anyway. So how can it be tracked? It needs either a land-based or an air-based, and they don't appear to be getting tracked. But I think what they do is they do what our vehicles do, which is cache the details from where they're expected to be. And once they get a signal again, they resend it all and make it look like it's been there and join the dots. And that's what I believe is happening, because if it was really a case of tracking, then MH370 would never have gone missing. But I also consider the possibility that MH370 never even took off. I mean, we don't really know what happened. But what I remember, and the other thing I'll say is MH370, when that went missing 2-3 weeks later, there was that that incident where the Russians shot down they blamed the Chechen rebels, but they shot down the passenger plane, which coincidentally looked just like the MH370.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, we really don't know. I mean, MH370, if tracking really was something, then it would never have gone missing in the first place. So on the one hand, you can say, well, GPS is a real thing, but if it is a real thing, then MH370 never went missing. It couldn't have took off in the first place, because there's no way that they would never have known that there's no way that it could have gone missing. Or, which is more probably in my opinion, that there is nothing that can track anything over the oceans. But then I would question the illustration that you showed with the boats, because that appears to show tracking.
Like I said, we were sending the signal out and getting on the reflection back. I'll just call it that. We always knew our GPS location, always on our screen, 24/7. We never lost it.
I believe you.
And like I said, nobody's up there spinning a satellite dish to try to keep that in either.
I remember when, like I say, what's his name? Mark Sargent interviewed the missile instructor, and he sounded like a black guy to me. I know that sounds stereotypical, but he didn't sound like a white guy. But he was. Anybody that's not heard the missile instructor interview with Mark Sargent really should go look at it, because it's really cool. But he said that when they were traveling in the northern hemisphere and they were going down to the southern hemisphere, things got crazy. So it's like that. I kind of agree with that. And Rusted Soul, no, I'm not considering Pac-Man. I'm asking wondering what the authority is that Rich accepts to be credible enough for him to think that Pac-Man might be viably a possibility, because the way I see Pac-Man, it defies logic, and on that basis I struggle with it. But then you see Rich that's doing it, and I'm wondering, well, what does Rich accept to be credible that makes Pac-Man a possibility? Because for me it doesn't really work, right? So
and I'm not 100% sold on it. It's just, to me, it's the most logical one I've got at the moment. It's sort of like how I started with, is the Earth a globe or not? It took me, I don't know, 4, 5, 6 months before I was really sold on the fact that it wasn't a spinning ball. And then I announced on my videos, now I want to try to determine what it is.
My position, I know it's not a ball the way they're telling us, because if it was, then I wouldn't be able to see Blackpool Tower from 30 miles away. And I don't care what any baller says. I don't care what maths you come up with. There is no explanation for it, because when you go and do the observation yourself, you should not be able to see it. Ali has been modded up ranty. She can be on trial for a while. I'm taking it on your say so. If Ali plays funny, then it's down to ranty. Anyway, so is there anything else, Rich, that you can support your?
Well, I'll get. Yeah, here's the whoever wanted to see. Here's the Mercator. It's still a hell of a distance.
It's an absolutely massive distance.
Yeah. So
it was.
Now, if you want to know other, well, I really think the Gauss Peter projection is probably the best.
To be fair,
and
the guy that gave you that challenge was Sly Sparkane, and to be fair, I agree. It's an absolutely massive distance, even on the unless he's saying go the opposite way from Australia round the other way.
Yeah, the other way was a little bit shorter on the Mercator. Now, here's something else that we have to consider too. I just want to make sure I get the right projection here. Yeah, this is I shouldn't have done that.
Whilst you're doing that, I'm just going to play a 30-second clip while I nip to the gents. Give me 1 sec.
You got it.
Around to the earth is flat, probably the lamb go along, I see.
All right, I'm back, matey boy.
Is that a commercial break?
It was a commercial break. I just noticed that Flat Earth Court or Issa Mihalski is in chat, so I just thought it was just a tip of the cap to him, because that was his music. That was his music, you see.
Oh, okay.
GPS was not.
All right, here's the Peters projection.
Yeah, go on. Sorry.
Here's the Peters projection. As you can see, it's not quite it doesn't look like it's quite as much as the other way. And if you went this way, well, let's count blocks, because they're actually pretty uniform either way.
It's still a
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks that way, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's about the same either way. So if you want to go to the western part of Australia, I guess you'd head this way. The eastern part, you head the other way. All right, now here's a couple other reasons. Like I said, I know it's not a ball. I'm 100% convinced, no doubt about it. Cannot be a ball. I'm also convinced 100% it's not concave. And if you remember, that was the big argument early on for quite a while.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's not concave.
Right. So
that to be a realistic possibility, if I'm honest.
Yeah, generally speaking, it's a plane with up and down hills and valleys and stuff like that. But at sea level, you can see the whole thing comes back to level. So to me, calling it flat or calling it a plane is accurate enough.
Yeah, but with regards to this like Pac-Man idea, the idea is that as the sun goes out to the left, it appears on the right, teleportation style. Am I getting that bit wrong, or is that?
No, you got it right. Let me.
Go on.
I'm going to get there with a couple other reasons. Notice now Gibraltar to Norfolk. Can you see how you can just draw a straight roller line and get there?
Yeah.
And when we plotted it in the weather office, that's exactly what it was. A nice straight line that paralleled this right here, which is probably 45 north or 40, something like that. That's the way it was. And I can remember, actually, like I was the section leader telling the guys, watch the great circle route as we try to break the record. And then I looked like a fool because we went in a straight damn line the whole way. We didn't break the record because we had a guy have a heart attack and he had to stop and stuff like that. But anyway, we tried to break it several times and there was always something that happened. Now, I don't think I have to tell anybody that's into the Bible how many times the Bible says references the four corners of the earth.
Yes, the pillars of the earth.
Yeah, not only the pillars, but you have the four corners. Now, one of the issues is Psalm 19, where it gets into talking about the heavens and things like that. In particular, 19:6, his going forth. This is talking about let me back up, the sun. And then he has set a tabernacle for the sun. A tabernacle generally in the Bible is a temporary dwelling place or a dwelling place. A tent is just, to me, it's just an area that the sun has been reserved for by God that it travels through. Now, speaking of the sun, which is a bridegroom coming out of his chamber and rejoices as a strong man to run a race. His going forth is from one end of heaven, and his circuit. Now, a lot of people make a mistake with this word circuit, and they see the word CIRC and say, oh, that has to do with a circle. Not necessarily. We're going to see why. It can mean that, but think of an electric circuit. An electric circuit is just a completion of electricity going from point A to point B. It has nothing to do with a circle. It's a path. Now, I'm trying to try not to bring in the apocryphal books because people have problems with that, but as for now, but there's a lot more evidence with the apocryphal books. His circuit into the ends of it, the sun's circuit into the ends of it. It's talking about the sun's path now, and there is nothing hid from the heat thereof. This is where I also...
What you're saying is to the ends of it is like a finite beginning and a finite end.
Could be. Now, when you look at the word circuit, that's where it gets interesting. Hebrew 86:22, let me open it up. Coming round, circuit of time or space, a turning circuit. Let me just cut to the chase. When you get down into it, this word when it's time for the calendar to start over, here's the best way to explain it. When December 31st comes, you don't race backwards 12 months in the calendar to get back to the beginning of the year. It just flips over and starts over.
Yeah.
That is how, pardon me, that is how circuit is used in the Bible. It's only used like 3 times, but that's the connotation you get, is one ending and another one starts. I'm here, as of the sun, hence the course of time of season, after the course of a year. Well, when you read in the context where it is, it's where one ends and another one begins. It's an idea of an immediate transition to starting over. And when you read the other ones like Enoch and things like that, it enters a portal, it travels its distance, it exits a portal, and as it exits, it's entering again on the other side, is the way I read it.
Right. Okay. So bring up the Peter's projection tab on the top right.
Anyway, the big thing here is come about.
Okay.
With, let's say, make sure I got it right. Here's the equator.
Yeah.
The sun would start here, and I think, believe it or not, Tony, I think this is why we have a lot of double suns near sunset. I think it's an aberration where you're seeing it entering up one portal and exiting at the same time. Also throw in the fact that I know for a fact in my mind, we do not see the sun directly. We see it through a glass.
Talk me through this double sun. I've not come across this one before, and I'm sure other people in chat will be wondering what a double sun is.
All you have to do is look up Nibiru, and people thinking they see Nibiru, and look at the images, double suns at sunrise and sunset. It happens more than any other time during the day. Not only do I think the portal, it enters a portal and exits, but I think the portal itself moves. Now, I'm going to say one thing before I end this. I don't think the orientation that we have is correct. I think we have to tilt this somehow.
Agreed.
And then a lot of things will make more sense. I'm not that deep into it yet, but biblically this makes sense. You got the 4 corners. The 4 winds make sense because you have 4 jet streams in the world. Here's the thing, Tony. I have never gone wrong by going by scripture. Never. Oh. It has always proven right. Yeah, but whether you think it's inspired by God or not, somebody knew what the truth was.
Maybe, but not a lot of people accept the scriptures to be truth.
That's fine, but there's other things that people will accept, which is kind of crazy to me, but they'll accept like writings of Homer, or not Homer, but somebody else in antiquities, and say, see, that's true. Or let's say Josephus, that's a true historian or whatever. Part of it, if it happens to be scripture, that's fine. But there's other writings that are not scripture that verify the same thing or say the same thing. Even down to the different Indian tribes, they just have, it might be a turtle, a flat disc with a turtle carrying it, and the 4 legs of the turtle hold the earth up. It's variations of the pillars. I'm going to tell you the problem I have with a dome. I'm not eliminating the dome. It's got to be something that causes pressure. Oh, you want to hear something wild? When I was getting into this, I was trying to figure out how laws work. You have Boyle's law. You have a bunch of different gas laws. And pretty much what the gas laws say is the hotter the gas, the more pressure it'll exert. So if you have a can of pressurized carbon dioxide, let's say, and you heat that can up, as you know, it'll tend to try to explode because the gas inside has tried to expand to get out. Now, as we move up in the atmosphere, like when we do these balloon launches, cold is the issue at first, but after that, heat is the issue because there isn't enough atmosphere to take away the heat. Now, that tells me the pressure should start rising at the top at some point, because if Boyle's law is true anyway. So I looked it up. I was like, well, what's their explanation then? How does this work with the earth and the atmosphere? How does it go from pressurized to a vacuum? Possibility. The gas always moves from higher pressure to lower pressure unless something else acts upon it, and nothing else is acting upon it so why isn't everything pulling off into space? Well, I looked it up, and all the different gas laws, every single one of them invoke nothing but temperature, the size of the container, different things like that. Nothing else is invoked until you ask the question, why doesn't the atmosphere leave the earth when it gets to the vacuum of space?
And then they come back.
Then they throw in, and then they say, say, even then with gravity, it takes billions of years for the atmosphere to. This is from people who now are questioning the size of the sun.
Did you catch that then? When they talk about why doesn't the atmospheric gases be pulled into space? This is where I like to play this one.
Gravity has nothing to do with the shape of the fucking Earth.
Because they come back to gravity at all points. Now, gravity is it's an integral part of the shape of the Earth, but it's also the cause, they say, for why the vacuum is unable to suck the atmosphere off the Earth into space, because they say gravity pulls it in, yet gravity is unable to pull smoke down, pull helium balloons down, that kind of thing.
Or hydrogen, or, here's another thing I'd like to talk about, too, because it actually, a lot of this stuff fits in with the gas laws and things like that. That'll make more sense later on. One of the other issues that people have is the fact that clouds, and I've seen some embarrassing stuff that I won't get into. I don't want to embarrass the person. It was so bad I was embarrassed. It had to do with, let me just leave it at that. People just do not understand some basic things and how they work. Now, there's a lot of things, granted, I don't understand, but one thing I do understand is the atmosphere, and that people will argue to the blue in the face that clouds, or it's got to be more dense than clear air or dry air, which is the opposite. Clouds are less dense. When you see clouds floating in the sky, dense than the atmosphere around it. Otherwise, they would sink to the ground. If people want to use science to be able to prove this, is mostly, I'm going to be a point or two off. It's basically 75% nitrogen, 25% oxygen. It's a point or two either way, because you have a bunch of little sparse gases and things like that are in there to make up the total 100%. But generally speaking, it's nitrogen and oxygen. When you look on the periodic table, I'm going to pull that up. The periodic table, I don't think since highest. No, I have. Now, what everybody should know what water is, right?
Yeah.
Water chemically is H2O. You have 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. Now, the atmosphere is 3 nitrogen to 1 oxygen. So when you look at the periodic table, it's really small. Okay, here's hydrogen, the lightest element that there is. Hydrogen. So water has 2 of these to 1 oxygen, which is, where's oxygen? I should know this. Here it is. Oxygen is the 8th heaviest, 7th. So here you have 7 and 8. You have 3 of these to 1 oxygen basically in the atmosphere. A few others mixed in. Water, you have water droplets with clouds. You have 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen. You have 2 plus 8, 10 is the weight, if you want to do it that way. Whereas here you have 3 nitrogens to 1 oxygen, 21 plus. So 2 hydrogens plus 1 oxygen is going to be lighter than 3 nitrogens plus 1 oxygen. And I know that sounds like a stupid point to make right now, but people get lost on that very thing right there, and then they can't get other things you say past it. Clouds are lighter than the air surrounding them. When you go into an aircraft and you fly and you hit that first level or layer of clouds, you'll notice that the plane, you'll hit turbulence. The plane will try to drop there because there's less air to hold it up, less air density, I should say.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just want to make that point because, believe it or not, this will come up later when we're talking about this model.
Yeah, but we're still stuck at teleportation.
Yeah, well, to me, it's entering a portal and coming over. How that works, I don't know. But I do know that a circular sun to me makes no sense. First of all, when it's up here, I know, like, if you took a string and hung it out on this thing here and spun it around, it's really all going the same speed no matter where it is. But in the summer, it's covering more, it's covering more distance in 24 hours than it is in our summer, correct?
If there's a portal, what's the evidence that supports there being a portal?
Only scripture that I know of. And the fact that we see double suns and things like that. Let me see if I can pull up what I'm talking about there.
Whilst you're looking that up, I just want to play you a clip from one of my haters.
Okay.
I just want your instant reaction. He's referring to you at this point. So,
flat earther, a big name flat earther. So, like I predicted, a flat earther, a big name flat earther, gave him a shout out, and Anthony just sucked dick.
Do you recognize the voice?
No.
It's Sean Hufford, and he's referring to you. On one of the videos that I put on, I think you commented in some way. I don't know exactly what video. I don't know what the comment was, but apparently he counted that as a shout out. And you heard what he said, right?
I don't understand it. I didn't
let me play it
catch
again.
All the words.
Let me play it again.
Like I predicted, a flat earther, a big name flat earther, gave him a shout out, and Anthony just sucked his dick.
Did you get it then?
I got it, but what is the context?
There is none. I think he's referring to a comment on a video that I'd put up where you'd said "great video" or something like that. I'm not exactly sure exactly which one it is, but it was just you may have even mentioned it in a show at some point. But it was a shout out of some kind, and I just sucked your dick.
Okay.
Yeah. Sean had to give me an apology, you know. Let me play you his apology. He called me out on something that he was wrong on, and I was like, I had no idea what he was referring to, and this is what happened.
Okay.
Sorry, I accused being a pathological liar. You have your apology. I am sorry, I accused being a pathological liar.
And then the consequence of that was a video that I did, basically putting the record straight, which he said this.
How much you want to bet that not only does he not release those comments, he will also keep that video on his channel, even though I've given the public apology that will stay on my channel.
So the video that he's on about, I did delete, and it's gone. So he's called me again and got it wrong, but I just wanted.
So he's not a flat earther?
No, he's a ball earther. He knocks around with Red's Rhetoric and
oh my God.
Yeah, he's in that group. Cara from Earth Discussions 2.0, who models everything on Stellarium. Can't do anything else, but that's what she can do. So yeah,
you know, believe it or not, I don't know many of the people in the flat Earth community. I just don't watch other videos. Like you said, I was going back and forth with Jaron. That was totally happenstance. I've seen a few of his videos. I've seen a lot of videos, but I don't see a lot of videos. I just don't. And most of it is because I don't want to be influenced when I'm trying to figure something out. Like the model, I don't want to see other people. I mean, I'll glance to see where people are, but I don't want to get into it. I'd rather let my own evidence. And I think that's the deal with you. You want to let the evidence lead the way.
Generally, but Skyfly Bride says, Tony, don't bring drama into it. Keep it to the facts. I like to correct the record. I mean, people misrepresent me all the time. Mark Taylor does it all the time, and I let it go because it's bullshit. But there are times when it is worth saying, especially when certain people are in chat. So it's just a case of, for me, it's a case of putting the record straight while I've got the one-way operation, the one-way communication.
You ended up with a weird group of trolls.
Yeah, I went into
I
went into Earth Discussions 2.0 once. I was in there for 5 minutes, and I came out with more leeches than the bloody Amazon River. I promise you.
What was it called?
Earth Discussions 2.0. It's I don't know who owns it. I think it might be something to do with Gem Panda. But basically, the way that flat earthers are treated in there, it's terrible. So nobody goes in there. But they run a 24-hour chat. So all the ball earthers go, or some of the ball earthers go in there, but nobody else does. And it's because of the way they treat us. But it's not the same in reverse. I mean, most people don't really listen to most of the ball earthers, but they come in anyway. But they wonder why flat earthers don't go in there, and it's because of the way that they treat flat earthers. They treat them with scorn, not just ridicule. I mean, we can deal with ridicule, but it's horribleness, and that's what happened to me when I was in my infancy. I went in there curious, started asking questions, and I came out there with about 50 leeches, and I've never shook them off.
Yeah, I can just picture you coming out of like the Amazon with all kind of leeches hanging on your body.
Well, they're all in chat right now. Mark Taylor's one of them, Tim Osmond. I mean, they're all in there right now, and they're just watching for that link to be shared, because the minute that link gets shared, sniped. Anyway.
Oh, so was it shared?
No, it's not been shared yet. No, because we're still running. If it gets shared accidentally, it'll get swiped.
Okay. Do you see the double sun image here?
I do. What's that all about?
I don't know if I can make it bigger or not. There's a lot of these images that are like this.
Just to address that that chat link, you've still got that tab that's open there, that Google Hangouts tab. Just don't click that Google Hangouts tab, because there's about.
Oh, this one here. This is the old one.
Yeah. Oh well, don't click it anyway. Don't click it anyway. If that's the old one, just get rid of it. Yeah. Now I feel a lot better now.
Yeah, I've got that on Chrome, and this is
that's okay. That's okay. As long as that link doesn't. Literally, they're in chat right now, and I'll just play some relevant music that you'll get. Right, you ready for this? This is what the ball earthers in chat right now are doing. Right, you ready? Can you hear that? That's what they're doing right now.
Jaws.
Yeah.
That's it. There's no talk. There's no, or this is this background music as they.
I have that there just for because when I know that they're circling, it's there just for.
Oh, you're playing the music.
Yeah, I'm playing the music. Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Because I just know what's there. You see, when there's a bit of a contentious issue, I know that they're there. They're just waiting for that one accidental slip. In fact, what I'll do as well, just to double protect myself, I'll just go into the Hangout details, and I'll just make sure that DVR is disabled, because DVR allows them to rewind it. So if it does get accidentally shared, they can rewind it, and then they can screenshot it and then manually type it in, and that's how they get in.
Okay, do me a favor. Tell me when my screen is safe, because I want to go and just delete the address bar.
Well, at the moment, I've not seen it, so it's fine. So don't worry about it too much. Let me just go into.
Okay.
I'll just go into the edit and I'll change the details of it. So just bear with me 1 sec. Oh no, it's off anyway. So they can't go backwards. So if they miss it, they miss it. And I play that Jaws music in my hot tub. I don't know if you know, Rich, but I've got a hot tub in the back garden, and it's been the subject of a lot of ridicule from like the likes of Captain Bullshit and co. And
why?
Refraction makes me look chunky. Snell's law. When you apply Snell's law to light that bends through water, it makes me look small and chunky. So obviously I've been getting called a fat bastard, and it's fine because I'm the one with the hot tub, but it's still been the subject of videos. So and they're all in chat right now, so it's all good.
Back in your hot tub.
Whoa, that sun is cool. Two. That's got to be a fake image.
Yeah, 2 reflections and everything.
That can't be a real photo, surely not.
Maybe not. I don't know. But there's a lot like this. Here's one here. There's one. Maybe there's a lot of fakes. I don't know. But usually they say it's Nibiru.
Yeah, they do normally say it's Nibiru.
Here's a good one. This is one I don't think is fake. And they're usually just very, from what I've seen of the few actual videos where you know it's not fake because they're actually doing it live, or at least you don't think that's fake. They don't seem to last long. It's like they're there and then you miss it. It's gone.
So this is the idea. This is addressing the port. That looks like lens flare, right?
It could be. I'm just saying that could be a possible explanation for why we see double suns sometimes. I have a biblical problem with the dome. Maybe it's not a biblical problem. I don't know.
The dome, though, is supported scripturally, though, isn't it? The firmament of the earth. Genesis.
The firmament, yeah. Well, I'll show you my issue. Here's a picture that I think I'll show it. As long as it's modified, great. My problem is that with the dome, the way people project it anyway or show it, they show the stars coming all the way down to the surface. And scriptures say that the objects in the sky are in the heavens. They're above the earth. They're above where man is. There's no doubt about that. And almost every dome depiction I see shows stars coming all the way down to the surface. Yeah. Now, I'm trying to decide whether to hold off until my presentation in November in North Carolina to talk about the stars. But I'm sure someone has noticed what I've noticed.
Here's a comment in chat.
See, here we go.
The Hebrew word of firmament means the shield.
Yeah, I like that. Shield is good. But look at this. Look at this depiction. You have the path of the moon going below the earth and the sun, and the stars coming all the way down to the earth. That's wrong. What this is, what people are confusing is they're confusing scripture with Hebrew tradition in some cases. In any case, I'm thinking through the dome. I don't know what to do with it. Shield, I like that though.
Do you agree though that the idea of a portal defies logic?
The idea of what?
The idea of a portal defies logic.
Why?
Well, it doesn't make logical sense, does it? I mean, we live on a physical Earth. The Earth is physical, at least, even if the atmosphere is electromagnetic in some way, and we know that it is. But the Earth that we live on is physical. It doesn't make sense unless we live on a polo that we could portal from one side to the other. Let's
eliminate portal for a moment, and let's just say what I'm saying is true about seeing the sun through a glass. I don't think I have it. Like I said, I'm 100% convinced we do not see the sun directly. Rainbows, for one, and this does not necessarily mean you have to have a dome. It just means there's something between you and the sun. Number two, that explains why everywhere on the earth on equinox day, everybody sees, give or take a degree or two, 090 degrees at sunrise, 270 degrees at sunset. It also explains why instead of a straight line across or up and down better for the shadow and sun, let me show you.
I think there's more credibility in the argument that the firmament might be the Van Allen radiation belt than arguing that there's a sun portal that the sun drops behind and then appear. I mean, it does defy logic. The sun drops in. I can't understand how the sun could go one side of the map and then appear on the other side unless it was directly connected, meaning round.
Yeah.
Or even spherical. And the flight maps do support spherical or round, but probably not portal.
What does?
Either any of the map projections, like the Flat Earth map or the Peterson, they all support the idea that if it was connected in a direct physical connection, there wouldn't need to be a portal. It would just be a continuous loop, i.e. circular or spherical.
I mean, it could be. I guess the thing to do is, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to research the word portal, see what the etymology is. Where's the thing where you get the shade, the dark and day and night map? That's it.
Yeah, this is daytime, nighttime.
You cannot explain this unless you're looking at the sun through a glass.
Well,
you should have a straight up and down.
They say it's the tilt of the earth, though, don't they?
What's that?
They say it's the tilt of the earth. As the earth's spinning, it's accounting for the tilt.
Yeah, the tilt of the earth. Tilt of the earth doesn't change all year, right?
Correct.
Never changes. So we got this nice little curve here, right? Now let's change the date to 12/2. Did it change? No, it's still July. Okay. Now it's inverted, and it's a lot bigger.
Okay.
Now let me change it. Now here's the big difference. Let's go to 422. What a pain in the arse. Now look, it's almost straight up and down the black line. Now it's not that dramatic here, but if I took 3 screenshots, you'd see big differences.
Yeah.
And now the Earth tilt didn't change. It's still 23.5 degrees according to them all year.
I would agree with
But
that.
how can this angle change?
I would agree with
The angle itself has changed.
I'd agree with the observation you just made, but I'd also say that Antonio Superats doesn't rate timeanddate.com at all. So we know that time and date is wrong because Antonio, he bandies it around all the time, and I accept that to be correct. Even though a lot of people like Cara swear it's true. Did you see Cara? Do you know what was funny with Cara? She challenged me to do an equinox video on the flat Earth because she said that the sunrise and sunset could not happen on a flat Earth because on a ball Earth it rises and sets directly east on all positions on the Earth. And when she modeled it on Stellarium, it didn't even do it. I was like, dude, you've just failed in your own.
Well, I think all of Stellarium is definitely wrong. 100%, no doubt about it.
It's a model that reflects the model. It doesn't reflect reality.
Yes, it's a mathematical thing. It's all it is.
It's a model that reflects the model, but it doesn't reflect reality, and that's the bit that Cara can't get her head around. I
can't remember the name of it.
Cara's assertion was that it rose and set directly east, right? Rose in the east directly. She emphasized the word directly, and when she modeled it on Stellarium, it didn't even do it. It was off east, and I was like, you just failed at your own assertion by your own model. Didn't work.
Well, do you know why they came up with the 23.5 degrees to start with?
Let me have a think about this laterally. It was
most people don't even know the reason. They didn't always say that.
Go on. What's the answer?
Well, that's one reason. That is one reason, yes. The other one is they could not explain why people south of the equator could see Polaris.
It must also be to do with the position at the sidereal day when the sun's on the other side of the Earth's on the other side of the sun. Every 6 months, it shouldn't be daylight. So they must have to tilt it to allow it to be back in the position it is.
Well, you want to get into the sidereal day?
No, it's bullshit. But the ball, well, actually, because the ball earthers believe that the sidereal day explains why it is that 6 months later on the heliocentric model, we still appear in daylight when it should appear in the dark. Yeah, so go on. Let's address sidereal.
Yeah, well, what they do is there's a difference between the sidereal day and the
solar day.
Solar day, right? There's supposedly a 4-minute difference, which means every day noon should be 4 minutes more off than the day previous. I don't see any way around that. After 5 days, you should have 5 times 4, 20 minutes off on high noon, but that doesn't happen.
No, it doesn't.
But you want to really get a freaky thing going in your head? Try to model the moon and its phases when the Earth switches position to where the light source is on the other side.
It makes a lot more sense. AJC1844 did a video on the moon, and he said that if you look at the moon over a year long instead of a month long, it makes a lot more sense. I agree. The point the phases of the moon don't work with. If you accept sidereal day, the phases of the moon just don't work.
No,
but no baller ever accepts that. They say that it does, and I'm sure Cara could model it on Stellarium, but it doesn't in real life. It doesn't.
It's like the solar eclipse isn't working, and yet they don't want to accept it. But science can't. They're perplexed.
Well, I'm not sure about this eclipse coming up in September because Jaron's done a video saying it doesn't do anything wrong, but Antonio's done one saying it does, and I've messaged Sly.
I'm not worried about this. You're getting into the shadow thing. That I'm not into that as far as the position, although it's wrong. My thing is you cannot demonstrate in real life ever a shadow being smaller than the object ever. I don't care how far away the light source is.
Yeah, I agree.
The farther the light source, actually, the larger the shadow.
I agree because the bigger the shadow, well, even when the sun is as big as what they say it is in relation to the moon, it would be lit up. The part that they say would be in shade would be lit up by the opposite side of the sun on the other angle that they never show. They always leave it off.
Well, here's my thing. Whatever the path of the total eclipse is, whatever that width is, that is your maximum size of the moon, diameter. It has to be.
A message in chat from Drobot says, play Flat Earth Eclipse explained by OGW and discuss. We're not going to do that only because we're talking about whether or not the Pac-Man model's got any credit to it and credit worthiness, because I kind of want to know the evidence that Rich accepts to be pointing him in that direction, because I can't see any logical explanation for it. So there's got to be some evidential. But really, I think what Rich is saying, and I don't mean to be disrespectful in any way, Rich, because I love you. The reality is, I think that we both know that we don't live on a ball, but neither of us really know what we do live on. I believe that the sun and the moon and the stars are all the result of an electromagnetic electromagnetic effect of some kind, probably that we don't understand. And if you look at the electromagnetic map that can be overlaid on a normal map, it explains quite a lot of stuff that we see that they make the model fit, and it's not the real world. So we're trying to deal with whether or not this Pac-Man model or the square map, is it called the square map as well, Rich?
I don't know what it's called. I'm calling it the four corners map.
The four corners, yeah.
Because I don't think it's necessarily a square. I think it's a mistake to assume that it's a square.
Well, biblically, it
could be a rectangle, it could be a diamond, it's got four corners. I believe scripture, and it says four corners.
Yeah, scripturally it says four corners.
Here's the other thing. You know this theory that there's all these land masses outside of the ice ring?
Yes.
Scripture I just read kind of eliminates that, because it says there is nothing that is hid from the heat thereof. You'd have to have other suns on the other side, because the reason why that's supposed is because there's so little sunlight, so little heat is there. So once you get beyond that, if you're going to have other land masses, and the ones I've seen are way out there in some cases, there's no way the sun would get there, the heat.
No, but I haven't ruled out the possibility I have not ruled out the possibility that there's a second sun or a different sun, because what they say is the celestial sphere based on the North Star rotation point, and what they say is the South Star rotation point, which isn't really a star, but in any event, they say that there's a southern rotation point. I'm not against the idea that that's actually the North Pole for a world that's below us, that has its own sun that we can't see because it's too far away. I mean, let's be honest. What is the point? What does the sun do? It melts the ice, and the sun can only melt the ice so far before it now fails to melt the ice, which would be the point where the ice no longer melts, would be the ice wall. So it makes sense to me that the sun would melt a lot of the ice to create the oceans and stuff, and then when it comes to the other celestial point down south, that makes sense to me that that's literally another North Pole, and there's possibly another sun that's around there orbiting around that we don't know exists, yet they tell us it's the South Pole, and there's another sun which would be the Nibiru. I'm not saying that Nibiru is a thing. I'm not convinced or persuaded at all that there's evidence to support it, but I don't rule out the idea that there could be another sun down south that they tell us is.
No, that's good. It's good to think of all those possibilities. That's what I'm doing with this. To me, it's the most logical at the moment.
Yeah, it's not logical.
Come on. Perfect. What's that?
It's not logical. It's not a logical progression for you to go from a flat Earth to a square Earth.
To a square?
Yeah, come on, that's not logical.
Okay, let me show you my logic.
Go.
Go. You've got 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't have to. That's nice. Got a flat Earth map anyway. We don't have to do the ball because we both are in agreement there.
Yeah.
Doesn't exist. Okay. Big enough, hopefully.
Sure, yeah, that's fine.
Okay. See, I don't know if you accept the evidence that I know for a fact we did not make a right turn the whole time we went from Gibraltar to Norfolk, or vice versa.
I accept that.
Okay. So money always talks. When you're getting 3 feet to the gallon, you're going to want to be the most efficient.
Depends if
not only for that, but
I don't believe they give a shit. And with regards to money always talking, mine always says goodbye. Never says hello.
More of it'll say goodbye if Brexit happens, huh?
Oh, I hope Brexit doesn't happen the way they're telling us it does. Yeah. Shout out to Jared. We talked about that a long time ago. I don't know if you remember that. Shout out to Jared Buto in chat. I've not seen him in chat for a long time. He hates me. It's fine. Well, he's in chat anyway, but go on. Money always talks. Okay. Well,
not only that, but the military is going to try to do the most efficient thing as far as winning a war, getting to a destination, whatever. It just doesn't make sense to waste time and money to go the longest distance.
It doesn't make sense if you have no money, but if you're funded by the taxpayer and you've got $50 million a day in NASA's instance.
Well, yeah, I can see where you'd want to waste. You don't care if you waste money because it's not yours, for one.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do something as simple as break a record, you're going to do everything in your power to try to do the correct thing. You're not going to go on a curved path when a straight path is faster. Win a race by going longer than the shortest distance, which is a straight line between 2 points.
So
my point is,
the comment in chat says, in shipping, efficiency talks because it saves and makes money. So that would support the idea that you would go the shortest available route, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. To be honest,
it's not just the Navy. We're talking about private ships as well.
Yeah, I think that the vast majority of the ships on that tracking thing would have been at the taxpayer's expense. And when it is at the taxpayer's expense, it's basically the way I see it, it's a bottomless pit because they just charge us more in tax. They don't really give a shit. That's my view on it. No, so I wouldn't support.
But you have private industry. Private industry also is going to want to do the most efficient.
Absolutely, private industry agreed.
But even in the military, when you have to arrange every 3 days to come alongside, it's a very dangerous operation, by the way. Alongside, you shoot lines across to the other, you pull it. And there's been many, many disasters at sea because of that process where you have to time it just right. You have to, your fueling your tanker and your carrier, in this case where I was, you have to get the wind waves and more importantly, the swell or swells. You have to get that right. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with a trough between the two, and the two ships are going to collide, and you're going to have a collision, and people are going to die. It almost happened once. Actually, it almost happened twice. When I was down there, before I was in the weather office, I worked in aircraft fueling. I was a tester. I would test the quality of the fuel to make sure there was no water or sediment in it. So I would go down there on the dock, right where to the next ship, because it happened all the time. You'd have these third-party contractors from God knows what country, but they were close, and then as you said, they're not worried about necessarily the best thing, so they just get somebody at the cheapest rate to come alongside and give you fuel. And half the time they'd start by pumping water over, and meanwhile your meter's turning and you're paying it was $1.79 a gallon, if I remember right, for JP5 back then. I don't know what it was for diesel because I didn't do that part of it, but every 3 days you had to strategically change what you were doing so that you could come alongside for hours and refuel. And it's just something you didn't want to make happen. I mean, you could go 5, 6, 7 days, you could, but the idea was you didn't want to run on fumes out in the middle of the ocean.
Yeah.
So anyway, the point is, you always, even though people in Washington might not worry about the tax dollars, the captain of the ship is, because he's got other things to worry about other than money. Like I said, he's got to carry out certain duties in a certain amount of time, certain war maneuvers, different things like that. And to not be efficient wouldn't just be illogical. Plus, from plotting it myself, there was no shorter distance. It was just, it was the best way to go. I physically plotted, this is not secondhand, I physically plotted our course across the Atlantic more than one occasion, way too many occasions. I plotted our course down to South America, from South America over to Gibraltar, from Gibraltar through the Straits, from Kenya over to Australia. Straight line.
Well, all right, let's say that the boats did do what you say they do. Would you agree at least that the planes don't seem to do that?
From what I can tell, no, they don't seem to do that.
So there must be a logical explanation for why boats may do that. And I'm not saying that they do, but let's just say that they did for this discussion. Why would planes not do it if boats seemingly can?
Well, I guess it comes down to, are we getting accurate information from planes? Yeah, I don't know.
I think boats may well do it, but I don't think that this satellite tracking device thing that you cited is accurate in terms of the time it left port to the time it arrived in port, because I think the distances involved are way bigger. Because I remind myself of what the missile instructor, and I accept his commentary from Mark Sargent's channel when he said, when we were in the northern hemisphere, the distances were pretty accurate. You could calculate it within the hour. But when we were in the southern hemisphere, it was days out. And I mean, I that resonates through my head, and I remind myself of that every time we talk about the southern oceans, because it does support the flat Earth model. And I'm not saying that this is accurate, but it does support that, because the guy was saying I could plot. We knew the distances, and I knew the speed of the boat, but it would be days behind, and there was no explanation for it. And
yeah. Well, the problem is going to be, I'm going to go to the Arctic, and then a couple years after that, I want to go to Antarctica. That's the plan. I don't know what I can find out doing that way, because we're not going to be heading east-west too much. We're going to be doing a lot of north-south. So I don't know. Here's the problem. You could always contact somebody in the military who is either in the weather office or who is in some office that has to either track the ship or whatever. It's not many. You have to have a security clearance, first of all. The navigators in the weather office, it's pretty much, other than some of the high-ups in the flight crews, you're not going to know where you are. In fact, most of the people on the ship, you have no clue where you are. My brother, was doing brother duty with my ship. He was a fireman, so to speak. That was his rate. I was an airman. He was a fireman. He worked below decks, and he'd constantly be like, where are we? Because nobody knew unless you had security clearance. In any case, I was going to say we could ask somebody in the military to track. You have to be one of those offices going from, let's say, Africa, because you're going to stop there. You're going to stop in Mombasa like we did, just to get fueling and stores and things like that back on board before you head out to Australia. But the problem is, if you're on a carrier, you're going to be turning to do aircraft operations. You're going to be doing all kind of things. You're going to have to have somebody smart to take out all that noise to see how many miles it is in between the two. I can tell you that on our maps, nothing seemed unusual, but I can tell you it seemed like a hell of a long time to get from Africa to Australia. Like I said, we had a beer day where we were the 60 days out at sea without hitting a port. Now, is that because of the distance was too wide or because they just wanted to work us to death? I don't know. They didn't mind working you to death. I can tell you that.
What did you actually do were you in the Navy? I'm guessing you were in the Navy what did you do in the Navy?
I was a weatherman most of the time. When I first went in, I was an unassigned airman. I was lied to by my recruiter. They wanted me to go into the nuclear power program. I took the test. I passed it. They got a bonus. People will argue they did not. I've had people actually go ape shit on me over this, but they had an incentive, let's put it that way, to get people into the nuclear power program because a lot of people didn't qualify for it. Simple. So I took the test and I was actually going to do it. I was going to be assigned to a submarine, but I was unsure, and they sent a guy to me to talk to me about it, and he was one of the weirdest people I ever met in my life. So I was like, if that's what submarine duty does to you, I'm not going to want it. So I didn't take it. Then the next thing that was on the list for bonuses, so to speak, or incentives was to be in the air services. Like they put me in aviation. It was called an AQ, Aviation Anti-Submarine Warfare Technician. That's what it was. I was going to be working on radars. Why didn't I work on radars? I want to work on weather. That's what I studied my whole life or whatever. Well, they claimed that I could go into that billet as a AQ, and then when I got to boot camp, I could switch it over to AG, which is what they called it then, aerographers make. I think they call it a geophysics technician now. Case, when I got to boot camp, they were like, no, you can't switch. So I was lied to. So I ended up going through Congress, getting a congresswoman because they wouldn't let me out. They wouldn't let me out of Memphis, Tennessee at the school. Well, after she wrote, I didn't know my mother was doing it. She wrote a congresswoman, and 3 a.m, they called me, some lieutenant called me, said, get over here right now. It was a woman lieutenant. She said, what's this about you not wanting to go, blah, blah, blah. And I told her the whole story. And she and a civilian tried to talk me out of going to unsigned airmen because blah, blah, whatever. I didn't care. I wanted to be in weather. So I argued until they finally said, okay, we'll let you go as an unassigned airman. When I got to the aircraft carrier, they lined us all up, all the unassigned people, and they just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I was 4. So I got assigned V4 division. That was aviation fuels. Aviation fuels, that gave me the exposure to what I just told you about as far as refueling and how that worked and how not to waste fuel either way. Although, talk about not worried about wasting money, the jets on the aircraft carrier, they take off, and the first thing they do, as soon as they take off and they know they're okay, which is within seconds, they dump fuel out of both of their wings. They should say they have to take off with so much fuel on board. And as soon as they get off, they want to be efficient, the pilots, so they dump the fuel. Millions and millions and millions of gallons dumped every year in the ocean just because of some stupid regulation that somebody at freaking headquarters made. I worked my way, after working 12-hour shifts minimum, you worked whenever they were recovering in V4. I would go up to the weather office. I knew weather like the back of my hand. I was teaching them stuff the first day I went up there. How they encoded things, how they put things, on paper, how the military did it, the aspect of it. So as soon as I learned that, when the first chance came for me to take a test to become an aerographer's mate, I took the test, I passed it. I was transferred over to that office. So for the last 2.5, 3 years on the carrier, I was a weatherman, and I rapidly became one of the 2 section leaders. In fact, I was the youngest section leader ever put in my understanding is anyway, in the fleet so I had a lot of access to a lot of stuff.
Did you?
And I was very inquisitive, and that's why I asked questions about the GPS and different things. Like, we used all of that.
Did you ever go anywhere near the Falkland Islands?
No, the closest we got was when I was there. We went to Rio de Janeiro. The Falklands happened. When was that? 82 or 81, something like that. It was the John F. Kennedy was in port when that happened. I can't remember. I think we were in the naval yards in Portsmouth. Just missed that, actually.
Because I remember the guy on Mark Sargent's channel that said that he used to patrol around the Falklands Island, and when they were literally requesting their presence back in North America, rather than go up the west coast of South America and straight up through the Suez Canal, they would go up the east side of South America and all the way around Brazil. And he said, and that makes no sense because that's like an extra day and a half. And he said, and he always wondered why it was the case that they would go that way when the obvious way to go is straight up the west coast of South America. And I always thought, I wonder if that's the edge of the map. In other words,
You know what? I never did that personally, but I can verify that's what they would do, and it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I can tell you though that I crossed the equator several times, and there's no. One of the things we had to take care of too was we had to know what the tilt of the ship was, what the list. And I can tell you that when you're starting to approach the equator or south of it, there's no bulge of water where suddenly you're listing back and going uphill until you reach that point and then go downhill on the other side. It's total bunk. High wall of water that Neil deGrasse Tyson says is just south of the equator is unbelievably laughable. But we did go to here's something interesting at the time. AM radio was supposed to be one of those things that really can't bounce far in the atmosphere. I am a Baltimore Oriole fan, and in the year 1983, we went to Rio de Janeiro, and the Orioles were in the World Series that year. And I remember listening to Game 1 of that, picked it up on our radios that we used to pick up weather data that would come in teletype. It would be, not Morse code, but it would translate into numbers when it came out. It was all a code. And I would just switch it over. I tuned it to 1090 AM, which was the broadcast station in Baltimore, Maryland, and I picked up the entire game except for the last out, and static got rid of it. And that was, if you can see my screen, I'm down here and Baltimore's up here on a globe. Now, of course, I didn't think of it at the time. There's a lot of things I didn't think of at the time that just, like I said, the only thing I really, well, there's several things, but straight route, no matter where we were, it was using the ruler. So it didn't make sense on a globe, and it doesn't make sense on this either.
See, for me, though, this idea of a porthole sun doesn't make sense for me, because it means that there's a start and a finish, and then what happens when you get to the end? It doesn't make logical sense, even if there's evidence that supports it. I struggle on the logic side of it. I don't struggle on the evidence side of it, because I'm not sure that there is any to support the idea of a porthole. So for me, either, I don't know.
Imagine a loop.
Like a polo.
Okay. Like the analemma.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's the path that the sun goes through. Let's say the sun's inside a three-dimensional, and that's how it travels. That would perfectly explain a lot of things. How we see certain things at sunrise, sunset on certain days. Why all of a sudden the sunlight changes angles where it'll reach the poles, about the South Pole. But I suspect that there is 24-hour light at the South Pole. I don't know for sure, but I suspect there is.
But going back to the analemma kind of perfectly explains the path of the sun in the summer and the path of the sun in the winter with regards to its travel around the two tropics. If you accept that the sun goes round in a circle on its path, but the path that it's on moves up and down. So although the sun doesn't move in relation to its own path, the path itself moves. So in terms of, like, have you come across AJC 1844?
No.
He shows
a screen name?
Yeah, he shows a flat Earth model with like a polo in the middle, which the sun goes round in a perfect circle, but the polo itself moves up and down between the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer. So the sun, it's relative to itself, doesn't change its orbit in terms of Earth. It's still doing a circle, but the circle itself moves up and down, meaning that the sun doesn't need to speed up or slow down. It just changes its trajectory based on its own orbit within an orbit of the Earth that it travels over. And when he documents it and illustrates it the way he does it, it really makes perfect sense for the analemma. And the analemma would absolutely support it completely and utterly, 100%. And what I'd say,
can you send me a link with that screen name?
Yeah, I'll send you a link for the video. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm very interested in that. The analemma is one of the early things I looked at that told me that it wasn't a globe.
I agree, but the analemma, if you understand because most people say that the sun would have to speed up and slow down between the seasons, but AJC 1844 shows that, no, it doesn't, because this will be the explanation for it, and it makes perfect sense. And I always go to him. He was on Globebusters on Sunday night. Did you see Globebusters?
No, like I said, I don't usually see too many other. Usually what I see, believe it or not, is a lot of the small guys, or not. I shouldn't say small guys, but some of the new guys that don't have a lot of subscribers.
Yeah, the low hanging fruit.
I find, they generally have a fresh look at stuff, and I like that. Even though I disagree with a lot of it or whatever, I like that fresh look. And you've probably seen me, promote other people that. I mean, you fell into the same category because you are one of the ones that says the evidence has to show me before you will. You're willing to look at things and say, okay, maybe this is possible, and unless you can rule it out. I think you have pretty much the same philosophy as I do. I think yours is a little bit stronger.
For me, it's the evidence that tells me the truth, and I don't.
Yeah, you have to rule out. I mean, my philosophy, it's almost like the medical field, whereas you rule out things. You rule out ever. Well, to me, I've ruled out that the sun is in a circular. Now, see, because I believe we don't see the sun directly, it could still be a circular type of deal, but Scripture disagrees with me then.
One in chat's just put sun speed would have to change to match any flat Earth model. No, it wouldn't. If you understand that the way that it's explained on a flat Earth model, at least as far as I'm concerned, matches the video that I've just put in chat. The sun speed doesn't have to change. Relative to itself, the sun's speed changes it's exactly the same. The path of the sun on its own little orbit of the Earth or the North Pole, that changes, but the sun's speed doesn't change. It changes to our perspective, but to itself it doesn't. So no.
Yeah, to me, I think we're looking through a parabolic shape, almost like a satellite dish shape where the sun is behind it. And that causes the apparent speed up and slow down. The only model I've found that cannot explain the analemma whatsoever is the ball. Here's the analemma on this right here.
Yeah.
Right now, this is the perfect example. We just went through, when you get to the first of summer, like June 20th, whatever, to about July 20th, you have a whole month where is within 3 or 4 minutes of 20 days ago. It just seems to hang there. Trust me, I know, because I'm trying to beat the sun with walking my dog. It just hangs and hangs and hangs, but picking up steam, where before you know it, it's going to change by 4 or 5 minutes a day when we get to fall. Where to change 4 minutes now, let's say sunset here is 7:30 on June 21st. July 21st, it might be 7:27. I changed a whole 3 minutes in a month. There's no way the ball explains that, because it happens in the winter too. And people say, well, that's because we're on the extreme of the ellipse. Well, there's only a 3% change from on their model. There's a 3% difference between a perfect circle says that the ball takes 3. And yet this anomaly you have here, I can't remember exactly what it was. I think it was 17 to 18% variation. So you can't explain it by not having a perfectly circular orbit. And this whole fact where it does this twisty thing too, where it crosses itself, amazing stuff. How this to me right here, when I first saw the analemma, I was like, how could anybody, and this was, since it's ancient, how could anybody know about this and then accept a ball globe?
Rich, let me ask you this. I've got somebody in chat and I want to play a clip from her. I've played it already, but she's now in chat.
Okay.
I want you to tell me what you think. Listen to the words that are used.
I would say that gravity causes all things fall as they to the ground, whether they are dense or not.
Would you agree that gravity causes all things to fall to the ground, whether they are dense or not?
No.
Neither would I. And this person's asking for a link to join us. I'm sorry, Brenda, but you can't come on. Density doesn't cause.
Why does helium rise?
Exactly.
There should be no exceptions to the rule.
Exactly. Helium should never rise if that was true, Brenda. So, I mean, that comment there shows that density and gravity, you're not with it.
Here's the thing. What kills me is people that and by the way, I think I told you in the email, one of the emails we went back and forth with, I'm beyond, I don't care if people want to believe in the globe anymore or not. I just don't care. I'm not worried about convincing people. If you can't see plain logic or whatever, and you want to just hang around and troll people, well, to me, you got an issue. But I'm not into this convincing. My thing now is I want to find out what the true model is to the best of my ability and bust this whole, that's why I have matrix busting website. I want to bust this whole thing open because this is the tip of the spear. This is going to deflate the entire lie that we're being fed worldwide by the people that are in charge. I'm convinced of that are linked to this. But one of the things people will use is, well, for example, let me give you two good examples. This solar eclipse, I can't tell you how many people left comments. There's going to be a solar eclipse on August 21st. And if that happens, that proves that NASA is right and that it's a globe. Why? Because they assume that NASA figures that out by knowing the positions of the sun and the moon and the earth and all that kind of stuff. No, that's not how they figure out eclipses. People were figuring out eclipses 2000 BC. In fact, more than that, the Mayans were able to, in whatever it was, 1600 BC, predict that in 2012 there was going to be a transit of Venus across the sun. Not only that, but they predicted the two spots on the entire earth where you could see it, and they believed in a flat earth model. Yes, that because NASA can do it, that proves that it's a ball is BS. They're not basing it on that. These are tables. It's just like a mathematical table. Every so many days, you have such and such eclipses, and they shift such and such degrees across the face of the earth every time they happen. It's a known mathematical thing. That's one. The other is taking a feather and a hammer and dropping them is resisted by air, so it falls slower. And then they put it in a vacuum, and they both fall at the same rate. And people say, see, that proves gravity. It's like, hello, what did you change?
Yeah, you've changed air resistance, and that's the thing that's been removed, and that's the cause.
Yeah, you took away, you took away a factor of density, and it changed the outcome.
Yeah, I agree.
It tells you it's density, not gravity.
I'm just going to respond to a message in text. It says, so the Earth is a known finite distance. Space is not a known finite distance. How can you have an infinite space inside a finite sphere and it not be a variant of a cell Earth? Well, I'd agree with you that the land on Earth is a known finite distance, but I wouldn't agree with you that the oceans are, because I don't believe that they've got an accurate way to measure them. And even if they did have an accurate way to measure them, I don't believe they're telling the truth over it, because it doesn't appear to be the case that the oceans are as big as what they say they are. And if they are as big as what they say they are, how do we measure the ocean depth, the ocean, the size of the oceans reliably? I don't believe that there's a mechanism to do it. They say satellites, but I don't accept satellites can measure anything, because I don't even believe that they're there. If they are there, they're done by helium balloons. But in any event, I don't believe the oceans are being correctly represented by the maps, because the maps will be perfect. The maps are not perfect, and we know they're not. No map is accurate.
I agree with that.
Yeah, no map's accurate. The wriggle room that they've got is the oceans, because no one's got a way of knowing exactly. And we know that with maritime sailors, because they all say that when you travel in the southern oceans, things take a lot longer.
Well, I can verify they definitely seem to take a lot longer. But like I said, I have a question about the orientation we're shown, for one.
I have a question,
and we could be way off on the distances in the southern hemisphere, because we're left blind with what they give us. We have no idea until we actually start figuring a way to measure this. And I think the only way we're going to be able to do it, that I can think of anyway, is to measure the speed of the moon. That's the only way I can think we can maybe do it. And even that's not going to help much, because supposedly it only varies within 5 degrees of the equator, or whatever it is.
Gravity has nothing in the shape of the fucking Earth.
Sorry, somebody mentioned gravity in text. I have all these.
Who was cursing?
Who was it? It was, who said gravity? Ali B said, did someone say gravity? 23 Uvas said gravity. And I don't know what that was in relation to, but the reality is, I mean, my view on it is simple. We don't live on a ball the way they're telling us it is. Doesn't mean I know what we live on. If I had $65 million a day to play with, I could probably work it out. I'd pay a lot of money. Let's be honest, the best tool that we seem to have is the P900. Some of us have it, but stop it. Some of us have P900s, but that's kind of like the best tool that we've got. But that's the tool that allows us to appreciate that there's not the curve there that they're telling us there is. But other than that, it kind of stops there, because Pac-Man model for me doesn't work logically, let alone evidentially. But that doesn't mean it doesn't mean it's wrong, because I don't believe that anybody's disproved it to be incorrect. Imric said before in chat, nobody's ever proved it wrong. So on that basis alone, there has to be an element of credibility to it, even if I don't.
Well, you have to remember, I want to be clear that the Pac-Man model is just one of the square ways it could happen. This right here with the sun going through a looped path like this is also possible on a square without any kind of portals or anything. So it doesn't have to be the sun disappearing and then reappearing on the other side. That's just one possibility of it. All I know is a circle doesn't work.
Yeah.
To me, a circle doesn't work. It doesn't work with the sun either. If you accept the model that we see the sun directly, we should see the sun, and I'll get back to this. Granted, the sun should always be in a curve. We should see it rise curved to the north of wherever it is overhead, and then set the other way, because it's on its, or no, I guess the same way, because it's curving around you.
With regard to the sun and the moon, do you agree that the sun and the moon rotate as they go over our head? They start in one orientation and they get around about just short of 180 degrees, the opposite direction as they go past us and get towards the horizon. They kind of rotate. Well, I believe it's 90 degrees as it goes over our head, but 180 degrees as it goes over the rest of the earth, until it goes over the oceans, and then we don't know what happens to it. But that actually supports a really flat earth in terms of a spherical earth, like a pancake, because if the sun itself and the moon itself is not moving, but from our perspective we see it rotate like almost half a curve as it goes over the landmass, that does indicate that the earth must be flat, because if it was spherical, in nature, we would never be able to see that element of rotation because it's an impossibility on the heliocentric model. The fact that the moon rotates the way it does only supports flat, and it doesn't support heliocentric at all. Do you agree, or have you not come across it yet?
You're asking me?
Well, I suppose it's rhetorical, really, but
here's the thing. Maybe this is the best way to approach this. Take out totally the sun and the moon in the consideration, because I think there's ample to the fact that we don't see it directly than we do. Rainbows, for example. Everybody's seeing it at 90 degrees on equinox days, that type of deal. So if you take out, because what we do is, here's what I've been guilty myself of doing. I'll say we don't see the sun directly. I don't know about the moon, but I'm saying we don't see the sun directly. So why am I basing things, because I've done this, on the sun's path and things like that? Because if we're seeing the sun, let's say through a parabolic, let's just throw it out there, a parabolic shaped glass in front of it, that's going to do all kind of weird things to make it look like it's circling or whatever. This is also why I'm not going to get that deep. But if you take it for granted that you're not seeing the sun directly, then you shouldn't use the sun and its apparent path to guide what the shape of the earth is, because you're going down something you can never prove, because you're looking at an illusion, so to speak.
Yeah.
The sun and the moon's path out. Well, what are you left with the earth? Forget about the sun and moon, how they work, because I think almost anything is possible if you're seeing a reflection.
Yeah. Most light you see is reflected.
So then when you look at a circle, a flat earth circle, when you see this, and ships, this is firsthand knowledge. I guarantee you, we were not doing this right-hand turn all the way around, which we should have if we were really trying to break the record. So if you're going more like the Peters projection when you travel, then why would you stick? What evidence tells you that this is a circle other than the sun and the moon?
Nothing.
Exactly. So then you have to look at what you do have, and nothing tells me we travel in circles.
I agree. Nothing tells me that, even planes going around the apparent curve of the earth, nothing tells us that we're going around a circle, be it spherical or round. We don't seem to travel in a curve when we're traveling in a straight line.
Yeah, well, if you're traveling in a curve, you're definitely not traveling in a straight line. To remain the same latitude and longitude, or I'm sorry, just the latitude, you have to be at a right angle to the North Pole the whole time.
Yeah, Jaren showed that recently while you were away. He showed that if you do that on Google Earth, you can plot one route at due east and then go back perfectly due west, and you end up in a different position than what you left.
On a square or on a circle?
On a circle.
That tells me that's more evidence against a circle, or no? Am I misreading that?
No, it's evidence against the globe, because if you head due east on the globe and then head due west back to the position that you came from, you should end up in the same place on a
should.
globe, but you don't. You end up in a different place. And the argument was that it was the Great Circle route and the Great Circle route rather than due east and due west.
Well, I know one thing for sure. Ships should take the Great Circle route, and they don't.
But why don't planes? And why did MH370 go missing?
Do we know? Do we know that they do?
I don't know. No is the answer. We believe they do. We don't know that they do.
Well, yeah. My whole thing is what I know. What I have firsthand knowledge of that. So to me, and this has been a problem since I've started with this, and this is why I haven't gotten into the shape, the maps. I just have left it alone because I've had issues from the beginning with it, with a circle. Like it's impossible, and I'm not ruling it out. But I do know that I can't use the sun, because I know in my mind I'm seeing a reflection. Unless somebody can produce a rainbow, we're not seeing the sun directly.
Would you agree? Even if the Pac-Man model or the Azimuth for equidistant map, even if either of them models are wrong, would you agree that it's at least not a ball? It is no ball. We know that.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
what the things we're talking about eliminate a ball also. That they're a circle here or a ball. Both of them are eliminated by the same thing in this case.
Well, the sidereal day rules out the ball for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
The sidereal day is just absolute bullshit. And they use that literally as a calculation to adjust for the failure of the Earth to be in the correct place 6 months later when it's orbiting the sun. We know that the Earth doesn't orbit the sun because when we look at the star trails, we can see every single night that Polaris is in the same place every single night. It rotates, but it doesn't do the position, the movement that you would expect it to do if we were orbiting the sun. Polaris does not move. But if we were orbiting the sun, you would expect it to move left one way, and then we'd get around the other side of the sun, it'd come back to the right, and the sun would do a left to right movement every 6 months. 6 months it go one way, 6 months it come back. 6 months it go one way, 6 months it come back. It doesn't do it. Polaris is completely stationary. So if the argument is that the stars prove that we live in a celestial sphere, then yeah, okay, we'll give you that. But where's the evidence that proves that we're orbiting the sun? Polaris would have to move if we're orbiting the sun. Polaris cannot stay still. There is no parallax in Polaris. Doesn't do it.
Absolutely not.
They say that it's millionths of 1 degree, millionths, and I don't know how they measure this millionths of 1 degree. But
Yeah, it's like after Fukushima, the Earth it caused the North American plate to shift 3 inches. My thing is, show me, prove it to me.
well, this is what we should all do with anything to do with heliocentricity. Just show me, because you hear the arguments in favor of. I mean, look at the ones on the southern stars. They say, like, if you get an observer in South America and one in South Africa and then one in Australia, and then they all look south, they all see the same stars. Well, if that's true, can we see the evidence that proves that? And there isn't any.
Yes, that's what I want to see. I want to see people in 3 different areas take pictures at the same time. Well, you can't take pictures at the same time, can you?
Yeah, because one of them's always in daylight.
Yeah, but you could do 2.
You could do 2, but you have to make a logical assumption on the third one, because the third one's going to be in daylight. You can't see the stars in the day, so you have to assume where they are, and you can't make an assumption, can you? You have to prove that assertion to be true, and unless ball earthers can prove that, you have to look all south. And the other issue then becomes, well, what is due south? Because let's just say that all 3 positions were in the dark and they all looked south. How do we determine what's south? The reality is that most people use a compass, and then they point south based on what the compass tells them, because most people believe that a compass points north, so you just go with the opposite. But then they tell us that you have to adjust for declination. So then the issue becomes, well, do you adjust for declination or not? If you adjust for declination, then really you're adjusting based on a magnetic position of the Earth, or a magnetic field of the Earth. But then you're not looking south. You're looking what you're told is south based on the magnetic fields. Now, magnetic fields aren't the direction; they're just the way the fields go. So what position is south? And the reality is, I don't think you can actually work out south, because I don't think you can work out what true north is either, because if the compasses all follow the fields of the Earth, what is north? You have no way of knowing what north is to be able to establish south. And even if you could establish south, how do you know how accurate it is? So when they all say, let's just say that they all did look south, or what they accepted to be south, how do you know that you actually are looking south? Because nobody can establish what north is, because it's based on a field of the Earth rather than true north.
Yeah, to me, the only way you can really do it is bipolar.
I agree.
And you know, the BS they tell us, the BS they tell us is, well, I don't know what they tell you over there, but they say the compass points to in northeast Canada.
Mount Meru.
So why doesn't the compass point down to the ground then?
Exactly. If you're beyond the equator, the compass should point to the floor. You should have to point your compass on an angle down towards the Earth for it to be flat enough for you to be able to point out what is north. Doesn't do it, though.
Absolutely.
It proves that the compass doesn't point north. It proves that the compass lines up with the fields of the Earth. And unfortunately, the magnetic fields of the Earth, they work on both models, whether it's a ball or whether it's flat. The toroidal magnetic fields of the Earth work on both models, so you can't tell.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still of the belief that there is no South Pole magnetic. That's me. I think there's just all magnets want to point one direction, whatever that is. Why does it have to be north? I don't know. It's just I think you're making good points with the compass, because anybody wants to use a compass. To me, that makes no sense. I mean, you're constantly having to make declination corrections and things like that. And people that want to go up an aircraft with compasses, I think it's better than nothing. But I mean, you're moving at pretty fast speeds, going through a lot of different declinations.
Yeah, but the problem with a compass is, if you're lining up a compass based on what you believe to be true north or magnetic north, but it's actually lining up against the fields of the Earth, then you're not actually measuring north. You're measuring the fields of the Earth, and that's all you're measuring. So where's north? If it's a donut shape that we live on, then the north would be the center of it, like on the flat Earth, the azimuth equidistant. But if you're on a sphere, then it would be the same thing, but you would get the same results. So it's not that I disbelieve the compass, it's more that I'm asking, what does the compass tell us? And the only thing that you can conclude with a compass is that it lines up to the magnetic fields of the Earth, and it doesn't point north. We're told it points north, but it actually lines up with the magnetic fields, whatever them fields are. It's indistinguishable. You can't tell whether it's pointing north on a ball. Look at it this way: if it was pointing north on a ball, I agree. If you were stood in the south of Africa, you would have to point the compass into the floor. Look at planes flying around the curve of the Earth. They don't.
Yeah, or just take somebody in New Zealand. What the hell is their compass going to do? It should be pointing to the middle of the Earth.
Exactly. New Zealand is the point that's the direct point that's directly underneath me. So when I get onto Google Earth and I put the map all the way, the line all the way around the other side of the Earth, it lands just off Wellington in the sea or the ocean that's just off the coast of New Zealand. So it's like, so are you telling me that that's the point, that if I was to keep digging through the the earth and I'd pop out in southern New Zealand. It's not. I mean,
At one point, do you turn upside down?
Yeah, the plane that takes you to New Zealand never once corrects for the curvature of the earth. The gyroscopes fail to show that there's any curvature. Plane flies in a flat line. The horizon's flat at all times. It's always rising to the eye level, but for a little bit of atmospheric bending of light, which makes it, forces it to bend down, which creates the perception that you have. It's not. It's complete bullshit. Planes all fly flat. They don't fly around a ball. They don't correct for the curvature of the earth. The gyroscopes fail to show this.
At some point, they got to flip. At some point, they got to flip over.
Yeah,
you just have to.
Yeah, it gets to the point where you just don't know. You just don't know what to believe because nothing makes sense anymore. And then you get ball earthers that argue that you're stupid. And it's like, listen, I've been out there and I've done my own observations. It doesn't work. I mean, this is why I'm going to put this minibus on so we can go to that place in Hoy Lake so that people can witness what we're doing and they can come up with an explanation for what we're looking at, because I can't explain it other than it appears to be flat. But we were seeing more of that tower from 30 miles away than what we should be. And I want ballers to tell me, there you go, you can see it, verify it yourself, come up with the explanation for it. Oh, it's bendy light, it's magic refraction, Mick West. And it's like, Mick West? Are you joking with me? It's ridiculous. It just makes no sense.
Super refraction.
Yeah, super refraction. I mean, even Tim Osmond gets the Mick West one right. So listen to what Tim says about Mick West.
I don't want to get West at all because he's no authority to me. He's no authority to Globe Earth. He's no authority at all.
So even Tim says that he's no authority, yet everybody comes up with bendy light to explain why I can see something from 30 miles away that simply should be virtually gone. It's ridiculous. On the one hand, they argue it. On the other hand, they don't.
Oh, the one thing good that came out of that, and this is one of the points I wanted to make earlier about the sun, because I think I will give it that I've seen time-lapse photography, I'm sure you have too, where at sunrise and sunset, the sun does appear to curve slightly. And I think that is a result of, that is refraction. You remember when you had the star trails as they neared the ground, they would shift left or right a little bit, not up or down. They would shift left or right as they hit the more dense part of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
You had a little video clip that showed it was an animation, not an animation, but it was a time lapse of the stars. And as they approached the horizon, they would bend a little. They would appear to shift a little to the left or right, and then they'd come back to the regular position. I don't know if you remember that, but it was in one of your things when you were going back with that guy, back and forth. That is what that's what refraction will do, not up and down. You'll get that slight left and right shift.
Well, I don't agree that it's left and right shift. I think that you do get refraction up and down because that is what we see in the Skunk Bay footage from Jeren. We see things get squashed and then stretched and then squashed and then stretched. So I don't agree that it's not a vertical adjustment, and it does appear to be, in my opinion, based on the citations that Mick West gave me. But I don't accept that it allows you to see behind the curve of the earth, because firstly you have to establish that there's a curve of the earth for it to fall behind, and then you have to show it doing it, and he doesn't show that. He doesn't show that at all.
Yeah, well, I guess it's a matter of semantics. You're calling it refraction. I call that
bullshit.
The same thing. The same thing that causes the mirages and the heat or whatever, like a diffraction, or I don't think it's refraction is actually raising or lowering the sun. I think it can stretch it and shrink it and make it look like that, but it's not actually moving the position itself.
Yeah, here's a question from chat for you, Rich. Why can I not see the sun at nighttime? Well, do you know what, 23 UVAS? I'm in the UK, and at nighttime I can't see the sun, but I can see the light from the sun when it sets in the middle of the night when it should be underneath my ass because it's round by Australia. I can see the light from the sun, and it's set in the middle of the night, and it's just beyond the horizon. Oh, it shouldn't be doing that. Oh, well, they say it's
from your position, you should be able to see that.
Yeah, you can see the sun. It's just beyond the horizon. It looks like it's just on a flat plane, and it's gone just beyond the horizon, beyond the point that you can see it anymore, because it's like a flashlight. It appears to be cutting an angle of light onto the earth, and when it goes beyond your vantage point, you can't see it. So
every light has a limit.
Yeah, light does have a limit. I agree, absolutely, and it's the same reason why there will be an ice wall around Antarctica if it's around the outer edge, because the sun can only melt ice to some degree. So if the sun can no longer melt the ice, what's going to happen? You're just going to get an edge. You're going to get an edge where the sun can no longer melt the ice because it's not strong enough anymore because it's too diluted.
Can I touch on something with the stars too?
Certainly, be my guest.
I'm showing a upper level chart here. Let me go back to the.
Can you flip that around?
The actual one.
See it? Yeah, that's it.
Can you see this? Okay. I don't know what this is. This is probably an 800 millibar. I don't know what it is. This is an upper air chart. I don't know how high. It doesn't matter. It happens from the surface all the way up. But this happened to be one that shows good. Here you have two areas of low pressure. One here, one here. If I was to we could see this in motion, let's say we could spray this pink in the air, it would follow these lines. These are called isobars, equal lines of barometric pressure. And what they actually do is, what they're not showing here, the wind will actually cross these lines and start to come in towards the low. Same over here. What it is this is far enough off the surface to where there's not enough friction to where you can see that. In any case, now let's go back to the Earth. Have you noticed with star trails that around the North Pole, you get these symmetric type of circles, and you also get this around the Southern Cross, symmetric type of circles. But over the equator, or when you're looking more towards the middle latitudes, you get straighter line.
Yes.
And if you've seen some of these better animations or loops, what happens is exactly what happens with weather. Now I'm flipping this to where you have a north-south. Now I know this isn't exact, but what happens in the stars at night is you have these symmetric circles around the north and south. Let's just call it magnetic centers for now. In between, you get technically straight lines, but you get this bending in between. Have you ever seen star trails where they show that whole thing?
I've only seen that from when it's been done on the equator.
Okay, there's some really good. I'm going to do a video soon with this. I downloaded some really good video that shows this very well. But the way the stars work is much like how high and low pressure systems work on the Earth. You have stars that you have air that goes circular, but as it gets more towards the edges, it starts to flatten out and turn the other way. And in between, they become almost parallel, just like with the Earth. You'll see it better when I show that. But what that does is that eliminates the globe right there, because the globe should show a uniform spinning of the both north and south, because no matter where you are on the Earth, you're turning at the same rate. There's no difference. But what this is this shows actually a faster spinning here and a slower. That's not right. I shouldn't say it that way. There's a transition that should not be there if you're on a spinning ball. They would all move uniformly.
Yeah.
And they don't.
So then the question would be what causes the non-uniform? I mean, this is where you get that South Atlantic anomaly as well. What would cause that on a ball Earth? Have you come across that?
South Atlantic anomaly of what?
It's just below the equator in the Atlantic Ocean, but it's on the south side. So it's just below the equator, but it's in the middle. It's not Bermuda. It's right in the middle. Weird shit happens, and there's no logical explanation for it. We know the ball Earthers apply this logic and reason. There is no logical reason for why there would be a Southern Atlantic anomaly, but the Southern Atlantic anomaly is weird, and I don't even understand it. But I just know that there's no logical reason for it on a ball Earth, and probably not even on a flat Earth. But there's something to do with the dioelectric magnetic planes, something to do with the way that the fields go through it. So I don't really know.
Does this have to do with heating of the Earth?
It may be, and it may be something to do with pressure, and it may be something to do with electromagnetism. I'm not entirely sure, but there are people that have explanations that may or may not be true. But I'm not skilled enough to be able to even articulate it. But I just know that the Southern Atlantic anomaly makes no sense on a ball Earth, but it also makes no sense on a flat Earth. You have to go beyond the basic physics you have to at least go into electromagnetic realms before you can consider anything in terms of it. But it kind of shows that there's more to it than.
Does it sound right here?
It's in that area there where you got all them dots in the Atlantic. Yeah, let me share your screen. Sorry, let me present you to everyone.
You gonna share your screen?
No, you got it on there where you've got all those dots in the Atlantic there in the middle. That's where the Atlantic anomaly is, the South Atlantic anomaly.
Yeah. So is this what? I don't even know what I'm looking here. Are these magnetic lines?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with them.
You have 0.
Yeah, that looks like that's the electromagnetic. They're the electromagnetic fields, I believe, because I can see the one that's just below Australia. I can see the one that's just north of Canada.
Yeah. And one here. These are definitely. This is magnetic field.
Yeah, this is what makes me question the southern stars, because they say that the southern stars from Australia, you look south and you see Australia. That's fine. But what happens when you look south from Cape Town or south from Buenos Aires? Are you going to see the same thing? Because if the magnetic spectrum or the magnetic fields are affecting what we see, and we know that electronic fields do bend light, are they all going to be looking south to see the same thing? Because I don't believe that assertion can be proven. I don't believe it is proven that if everyone looks, because I don't believe they can work out what south is, because I don't believe they can work out north.
You know, Tony, if you shift this a little bit, this is what the stars do.
Yeah.
Shift this over the North Pole.
I agree.
This is exactly what the stars do.
I agree. But who says that?
Which is not a representation of a spinning ball.
No, I
Interesting.
agree.
I'll have to look into.
I don't look at that, and I don't think of a spinning ball when I look at that image. I look at that and think, how can that be explained on either model? I'll blame electrolysis.
Yeah, this is something that's got to be unique to the sky, I would say.
It's something.
I don't know. I don't know enough of that. I'll have to look into it.
I mean, I was in a private hangout last night, and the guy that's in there, he was talking about how, I mean, if you come across the concrete spheres that are in Costa Rica. Just go to in your address bar at the top. Just type in concrete spheres Costa Rica, or it might be stone spheres, but concrete makeup. They're not concrete spheres. They're stone spheres in Costa Rica. They look like concrete. And then when you get the results, just click images. There's thousands of these all over the earth. Click images.
They almost look like the sulfur balls in Sodom and Gomorrah.
Exactly.
These things here?
Yeah. These are all over.
What are they made out of?
They're made of stone, and they're perfect. Most of them are perfect spheres.
Wow.
And they are all over the earth.
Damn.
Yeah, they get washed up on the shores from the oceans and the seas, and they are basically perfect spheres. And there's no technique that man can do that can create these things, but they get washed up all the time, particularly around Costa Rica. There's loads of them all over the ocean, all over the beach.
These are satellite dishes, satellites that fell.
But these things, if you just do us a favor, just get rid of the word concrete and then add Costa Rica, because you'll see them on the beach. But they're not just in Costa Rica, but I just know that there's good pictures from Costa Rica. Now look at these things here.
Wow.
They're all over the place.
Damn.
There's thousands of them all over the earth, and they get washed up on the shore, so that they're in the sea. They get in the sea somehow, and they're not created in any other technique. Man cannot create these things. And
they're fallen satellites. That's where they all went. They all fell in Costa Rica.
Well, they're caused by, I believe,
they seem very huge.
I believe they're caused by some kind of
Are they
plasma,
magnetic?
something or other. I don't understand it, but I just know that there's thousands of them all over the place, and we cannot create these.
I don't think so. Not
And
easily.
they're massive as well. I mean, most of them are bigger than the average human can stand. I mean, look at the kids there. Them two kids there. I mean, I know they're only children, but they're still huge. And they weigh several tons. And it's believed that they fall out of the sky as a result of some kind of electromagnetic storm. That's I don't know. What?
Whoa! I want to be under one of those.
No, but I mean, this is a naturally occurring phenomena, and spheres are not generally considered to be naturally occurring phenomena, but they are naturally occurring phenomena. And science,
Here's what gets me: what tidal wave, what waves action would be strong enough to push them ashore?
God knows, but they're all over the shores, all over the earth, all over the place. I mean, obviously some are older than others, and some have been bubbling around on the ocean floor for a while. But it's something to do with electromagnetic plasma or something like that. I don't understand it, but there was a guy that gave a really comprehensive explanation, but it's directly related to the electromagnetic field map that you were showing a minute ago. It's to do with where these things fall. But I mean, look at the size of them.
Oh, I see. Yeah, like where those dots were.
Yeah. And there's one particular one. If you go back through scroll up and down the images, there's one that's sat on this little sat like on a candlestick. Just scroll up and down the pictures. Yeah, that one. I think no, not that. It's not there. Keep going down. I'll know it when I see it. Because it's that big that when it was sat, I'm just looking for it. Just bear with me.
You might have put in candlestick.
It looks like it's sat on a candlestick, and what's happened is it's for some reason I can't see it now. It was sat on basically a small it was like a small candlestick, and what happened is it's that heavy that it made the earth underneath it that dense that when the water that gushed round it, it took away the less dense land, leaving the more dense land that the sphere was sat on, and the sphere kept its position. It's crazy. But I mean, this is something that physics and science just can't explain. And GeoStreamer's in chat right now. I would like to see. Gem Panda says, has anyone ever seen any of these balls that are all over the place? Gem, there's thousands of pictures of them. There's literally thousands. I mean, you can go into it yourself and check if you want. You can just do the same thing. There's photos. There's thousands of them all over the place. And physics doesn't explain it. There is no explanation for it. Nothing that's accepted anyway. There may be theories, but none of them have explained it. But it seems to be something to do with some kind of plasma. Stone spheres of Bosnia. Yeah, you can do it with Costa Rica or Bosnia, I believe.
Bosnia was on there.
Yeah, go for that. Stone spheres of Bosnia.
Man, is this something that's just new?
No. It's just something that science doesn't explain. Okay. It's like science is saying, don't look over here. Concentrate on spheres. Concentrate on ball Earth. Concentrate on.
What the hell are they doing sitting up here?
No idea. So GeoStreamer's mocking me in chat by saying, GeoStreamer's mocking me in chat saying, do you even know what a plasma is? No. But GeoStreamer, do you even know how these things are formed? No. So
was supposed to be like
it's something to do with the electromagnetic spectrum. Exactly what? I don't know. But they're crazy.
Well, whatever it is wants to make a ball out of it, right?
Yeah.
And look, all of a sudden they hit candlesticks, and I don't even have that in the search. Oh, no, I do. How'd they get back in there?
Don't know. Just go back up to the top. Yeah, but that's weird. That map that you had on there, that it's something to do with that. Yeah, take the word candlestick out.
Take the word stone out.
What?
Stone in. Hey, by the way, if I lose you, I'll connect get back. I'm starting to have some breakups here.
Yeah, it's okay. Stone spheres. Yeah, Costa Rica.
I think Bosnia was the one.
Oh, Bosnia, yeah, can do it. These could be caused by ice cream as well, as much as they could be caused by plasma. But I know that there's something to do with the electromagnetic complex.
You got to be right. I mean, how come we're not hearing about this?
They don't want us to know.
It's got to be done. This is nuts.
There's no reason for why these can be created in science because science doesn't explain it. But it's something to do with electromagnetic thunderstorms and plasmas and shit like that. I don't know anything about it, and GeoStreamer doesn't either. So he can mock me as much as he wants. These things are not explained by science. There's no.
He's always the expert that you're not.
Yeah, there's always one, and Geo's claiming to be that one at the moment, and Sly's sucking it all up as well whilst he's doing it. So you've never come across these spheres?
Well,
before?
somebody's going to say, I've never.
No, they're amazing. They're all over the place as well. There's like thousands all over the earth. They get washed up by the oceans and the seas all the time.
Well, that's what kills me, man. It's like I don't know if any. I mean, it's got to be a strong freaking wave to push that thing up.
I know.
They're up on cliffs and stuff. That's crazy.
Now, if you notice that you're getting some pictures now of pyramids. Now, the pyramids are something directly to do.
Yeah.
Pyramids are built on ley lines, and the ley lines are states of discontinuity between the magnetic fields of the Earth. So whatever and they're all on the ley lines, or very, very, very close to them. But that's
trying to tell me maybe they're. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, these sphere things and the pyramids and the power and the ley lines and the power that goes over the Earth is like a network of power that Tesla described was always there that you just knew how to tap into.
Yep.
This is the direct consequence of it. They were using technology in the olden days that in civilizations before us that we just don't understand, or if we do understand it, it is literally being suppressed.
This screams electromagnetic to me. Look at that. Look how everything, like what I was showing before with the high and low pressure systems.
Yeah,
it's like there's a flow. If you start tying it into the pyramids, then you're probably getting into like electromagnetic forces and how they move giant objects and things like that.
Yeah, well, Zombie Wolf says in chat, he says all Riley's assertions are based on incredulity. Well, actually, they're based on not on ignorance because I don't know how these things are caused. But what I do know is that science doesn't explain them, and there seems to be a direct correlation with pyramids, ley lines, electromagnetics, plasma, weird shit that simply science doesn't explain. So I mean, it's not based. It's based on conjecture more than incredulity. But I mean, I'd like to see some ball earther explain how these perfect spheres are created in and they're massive as well. It's not like they're small; they're massive.
Well, if you apply the same standard to them, if you can't explain it, it doesn't exist.
Yeah, I mean, there's I haven't got the sources to hand because I wasn't planning on going down this particular route. But if I'd have had the sources available, I could show you the results of a plasma storm that literally burnt its way through rock, and you wouldn't believe it if you saw it without the explanation. You'd just say that must be fake. But when you see the explanation for it and how it's explained, it's like, oh, that makes it interesting. So, Geo, come on my channel tomorrow. Okay, I'll come on your channel. What do you mean, host? Do you mean as a guest, or do you mean just to watch, Geo?
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, it is. So we go down the idea of the Earth is like this ball, and I mean we go back to compasses. Compasses are lining up with the fields of the Earth. They're not pointing north the way we're told, because if they were pointing north and you were in the southern hemisphere, they would point through the floor. So they can't be pointing north because the only way north is when you're in the southern hemisphere is through the floor, and they don't do that.
You know, all you have to do to test that too is because people can make their own magnets. Get a little sliver of metal and magnetize it, and when you put it in water, then put a couple grains of water to break the surface tension. See if the north side falls down first towards the won't. That's another thing people don't consider when they talk about the water being flat. Salt breaks the surface tension of water. It's that they're always saying that forms it doesn't exist in ocean water.
You're liking these stone spheres, aren't you?
They're awesome.
They're amazing.
Well, what gets me is what the hell moves them.
Well, they get washed up on the shores, so it makes logical sense that they've got to be moved.
Yeah, but what's washing them up?
It has to be the tide.
I don't think it's water. How can water wash something up that tons?
I agree, but that's where they all appear. They appear on the shorelines up throughout the world, and there's like thousands of them all over the place. Big sizes, little sizes, medium.
They are all over the world, not just this. There's just a lot of them in this point. Look at that. I mean, come on. What wave pushed that in?
No idea. They are all over the world. They're all over the coasts, and there doesn't appear to be a lot. Well,
on the coast it is. And here you got one up on a ledge far from the ocean floor. There's the water down there.
Well, it's believed that they come out of the sky, and because like 70% of the Earth is made of water, most of them end up in the water. And when they end up in the water, they eventually get washed up. But the ones that don't end up in the water can land anywhere. So if they land somewhere on a hill, then they end up on the hill. But I mean, if somebody was to get killed by one of these things, they wouldn't be there to tell the tale, would they? So unless somebody witnessed it, I mean, the Earth's quite a big place, whether it's flat or round. These things, there's thousands of them all over the place. I also heard
Here's something
I also heard an explanation.
No, go ahead.
Go on.
No, you go.
I also heard an explanation of the craters that are on the moon.
Yeah.
They all appear to be a 90-degree perpendicular, perfectly flat to us crater. None of them going on funny angles. They're all perfectly flat, right? The explanation I heard to explain this was that it was an electricity effectively arcing from Earth to the moon or from the moon to Earth. And there are correlating marks on Earth that line up with some of the craters on the moon, indicating that it was an arc point. And I can't explain it. I'm not going to try. So, Gio, before you ask, I'm not the guy to do it. I have had it explained to me twice, but the evidence does support there being some kind of direct communication between the Earth and the moon in terms of discharge. And a lot of people have described the craters on the moon as arc discharging, like when you're doing welding, because you do get that big cloud of swarf kind of thing. So it's like, maybe there is some kind of direct connection between the Earth and the moon in terms of arcing of electricity or whatever.
Well, here's something I just learned about the moon I didn't know. The moon has craters that have shadows.
Yeah.
Of it. Weird stuff. I think early on when I was talking about the moon, theory that I'm light source, but the light is from behind and projected forward, and that's what's causing the shadow. But that's whatever. It's a different story.
Yeah,
it definitely explains it.
A message in chat says that the stone balls of Costa Rica have been the object of pseudoscientific speculation since the publication of Erich von Daniken's Chariots of the Gods in 1971. So if the speculation, it means that they've not been proven by science one way or the other. If it's subject of pseudoscience speculation,
what has science proved?
Well, I don't know. Maybe they do know what it is and they're just not telling us. But I want to show you something cool. Go to have you got Google Earth on your computer there?
Me? Yeah, I've got it.
Open up Google Earth.
I may hit.
Oh well, let me stop you sharing before you do. I'll present me instead. Right, go on. You do what you need to do because they can't see you now.
Oh, okay, good. Come on. Whoa, what the hell happened?
Denver Mason says, check out the creation stories about Viracocha and the god that came before him. Denver, do you know about the molten rock place? I don't know where it is, but it supports the Sodom and Gomorrah story. I can't remember what it's called. It'll come to me if you say it, and then I'll go, oh yeah, that's it. I can't remember what it's called, but it's evidence of Sodom and Gomorrah from a rock point of view, and basically destroying a shitload of rock and making it like molten. I don't know if anybody
sulfur balls that are more than 90% pure sulfur, which does not exist anywhere on the earth except for there.
Okay.
If you look into Sodom and Gomorrah and the proofs that are there, but how you could not believe after that.
Yeah, look at this. Mark
down the place where Lot went, which was in the middle of a circle of destroyed, which even science says if it was from a volcano or anything that they naturally know of, which it wasn't natural because there's nothing on earth that produces sulfur that pure.
Yeah.
It was impossible for one city not to get hit.
Listen to this comment about these rock spheres. Boulders are formed by erosion. The main body of the boulders started forming in what was then marine mud near the surface of the Paleocene seafloor. I mean, come on, erosion doesn't cause perfect spheres. It doesn't do it. Right, have you got Google Earth up? Are you winning?
I'm working on it. I don't know why it's given me an issue here. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, Ron Wyatt. Have you come across him, Rich?
I've watched a lot of his documentaries.
He's got some really cool observations. Really, really cool.
Oh, have you crossed the one with the blood?
Are you on about the crucifixion of Christ?
Yeah, the blood on the
yes, and it's got 23. It's got 23 chromosomes.
Chromosomes, and they couldn't believe that it was living blood.
Well, it hadn't
living blood because it's
that
supposedly after 48 hours, something like that, you can't get a chromosome count or something because it's not living blood. Yes, they could. Oh, and it only had the one Y. He had 24.
Which obviously supports the idea that he was born of a Virgin Mary, right?
Yes. There's no other way to get that blood like that. It was, in case anybody's interested, his blood type was AB negative. No, AB.
Rich, how are you getting on with Google Earth? Are you winning?
It's not. It may be I'm overtaxing the internet here.
Yeah, because you were dropping out a little bit then.
You might have to do it because my internet is not.
All right, I'll do it.
I'm gonna stop because I'm worried about losing you.
All right, you stop doing what you're doing.
I'm gonna try.
All right,
actually, let's see what happens. It's acting like it wants to.
It's okay.
Come on, what are you doing?
You stop sharing, Rich.
I'm gonna get rid of it. Now, you know what I'm gonna do here? I'm not on, am I?
Rich, let me know when you've stopped.
Hello? Hold on a sec.
Oh, we're losing him. I don't know whether he stopped
okay.
or not. Have you stopped sharing, Rich?
No, I can stop sharing though. Hold on. Turn that off. I'm gonna turn off the camera so we get more bandwidth.
Yes.
Sharing.
That green thing at the top. You can open up that Google Hangouts page now because they can't see it.
I took out the address bar part.
Yeah, that's it. Now, so right, I'll share now. So you should now be seeing my screen. So watch.
I am.
Can you see me good?
I can see you, but you're not moving.
You should be looking at my desktop.
I can see it's a split screen. It's you on the left, not moving, and on the right says Libra, Aries, Taurus, Gemini.
Yeah.
Okay, you're loading Google Earth.
Yeah, watch this. Now, I can't remember the explanation for it, and even if I could remember, I wouldn't be able to do it justice. And I'd have to say, listen, guys, I can't explain this. But can you see around the the Falkland Islands, you have this like scoop out of the crust. It looks like there's been a hot molten, like an ice cream scoop, digging out this.
Yeah,
and you have this kind of like these like 8 or so islands that are in this perfect spherical shape. There's a corresponding manifestation of islands over this way. Is it that one? No, it's not that one. This is the bit where I get it wrong. There it is. Basically, you have the same thing here. So you have this same kind of scoop, and it's something to do with. I don't even want to try and say it, but I don't know how to explain it. But it's something to do with these islands that are here. There's a direct correlation with this thing that's down here, and it's something to do with a huge electromagnetic storm that created like huge tectonic plate movements, and it realigned all the land of the Earth in such a weird kind of way. I'm hoping that the chat are able to tell me which it was. The place in Israel. What I'll try and do, I'll try and get it on here.
I can tell you it's eating up a lot of bandwidth.
Let's just see if it comes up with the images that because I don't know where these.
I've kind of lost your audio. Okay. I can hear, but it sounds like it's in the background.
Okay. I'm not sure what's going on. We may be getting to the point where we may have to call it time, maybe. And I'm not finding the images that I was hoping for. But basically, it was the craziest shit you'll ever see, and I need to know the name of the town. I can't remember what it's called, so I'm not really in a position to be able to cite it.
So it's the same anomaly on two different parts of the Earth?
Yeah, and there's no logical explanation for it other than some extraterrestrial or weird in some kind of way. And I mean,
or maybe Google got lazy like they did with the Earth and just copied and pasted it.
What I can do is I'll send you the link after. Once we go off air, I'll send you the link from the chat that I was involved with last night. It was a private chat, but it was recorded and it's been uploaded since. It was to stop trolls from coming in, but it was really, really cool.
Yeah, that reminds me. Let's not forget. I want to talk to you about that other thing we talked about.
On air or off air?
You talked about something else. You asked me if I was interested in something.
Yeah. Do you want to do that on air or off air?
I guess it doesn't matter if it's controlled.
Well, we'll do it off air because at the minute we seem to be losing bandwidth, and it might be a good time to wrap it up for the night. But yeah, we'll talk about that. Probably better doing it in private to start with, just to see where we're going with it. But yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Maybe with this right here, this is what most people don't know, I think, about the Pacific Ocean. Areas we have these obvious like ridges in there.
Yes.
Don't see a ridge or like mountains underneath the ocean is almost perfectly flat. It's like Kansas, salt flats.
Yeah.
Massive parts of the Pacific Ocean are perfectly flat on the bottom.
That's right. If you ever look at go on.
Which even though, here's the thing. My point is this. I mean, these are huge. This is wider than North America right here. Flat. Here's the deal though. If you got the salt flats here in South America, you got all this area that's flat heading east-west point. If you want to believe in the globe, you got to really start Earth severely to make that 24,000 mile circumference, because you have all these flat areas, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it's called the something plane, isn't it? What's it? I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah.
Don't forget though, you're not sharing at the minute because you're saving bandwidth.
Oh, I'm not.
No.
Okay.
It's called the something planes. Oceanic. See if I can find it with oceanic plane.
It's on the Pacific Ocean floor.
It has got a particular name, but you're right. The bottom of the sea or the bottom of the oceans is generally speaking pretty flat, but for a couple of what's it called? The Mariana Trench type setups where there's like
yes,
and troughs.
Exactly. Yeah, they're going for thousands of miles.
Yeah.
East-west.
Slice back.
You got to bend the Earth really hard to make that curve at some point, because it's obviously flat there.
Slice
that
back.
20,000 mile curve, you got to really bend severely. A lot more than 8 inches per mile squared.
Slice Barkane says that Kansas is not flat, even though it says in the paper, according to the newspaper, that Kansas is as flat as a pancake.
Flatter, actually.
Flatter than a pancake. And then there were 5 other states that came out and said that actually we're flatter than Kansas. So,
well, if you ever driven through Kansas, you can see when they have the corn, it's like horizon to horizon to horizon. Every direction you look for 20 miles in each direction, it's nothing but cornfield, and it's flat as hell.
Yep.
Keep yourself occupied to keep yourself from falling asleep. It's so flat and boring.
There you go. Dave Hinkle's giving it. It's the abyssal plains. Well done. done, Dave. I'd forgotten what they're called. The abyssal plains is basically the seabed or the ocean beds. The reality is they are very, very flat. Like runways. Runways are very, very flat. They have to be, because otherwise planes can't land. And I know that's going to trigger somebody in particular in chat. The abyssal plains is quite right. A lot of the ocean beds is flat. I mean, if you look at the Titanic wreck site where the Titanic's gone down in the Atlantic, it looks like a beach. It's flat as a beach. So it's like, where's all the curve?
Oh, I still want to talk about something I'm going to have to hold off on, though. I've got a perfect example. Use aircraft and gravity, of course. A plane doesn't have to fly level. It can fly level and still somehow maintain its altitude without going away from the surface of the Earth, even though the Earth is curving away from it at 8 inches per mile squared. Example where gravity actually works against that, but I'm not going to bring that up right now, but that's coming soon, where I got to research a couple more things, but we have a perfect example that's used every day where something absolutely has to pitch to follow the curvature of the Earth if the Earth is a ball, and it doesn't do it.
Yeah, I mean, you can see it in the clouds. I remember when a couple of months back, Sly did a request to any flat earther that would be able to show the state of the Earth without getting any like P900s or tools or whatever. And I sent him a video back saying you can see it in the clouds. And the clouds don't show any evidence of curve. I mean, there's different types of clouds, but if you get the ones where they've got flat bottoms, where it looks like they're all sat at the perfect same elevation or the same altitude, you don't see any evidence of curve. Now, if the Earth is curved, they would be following the shape of the Earth, and we don't see that. We just see a perfectly flat line going to the horizon and converging with the horizon the way our eyes work. We would see curve, and we just don't seem to see it. And Sly rejected that video because, well, I don't think he actually responded to that one. He responded to other ones, but he left that one silent, if I remember correctly. But I agree, the Earth does appear to be flat and stationary. There is a greater puzzle in play that you all are missing. Pete, we're not going with that one because we know what you're going to say. So
it's so bad you know what the trolls are going to come up with?
Sly, go to Manchester and photograph that runway. Do you know what, Sly? I can do that because I can get around the back end of the runway and they're basically flat. So Sly, I'll challenge you then. If I go to Manchester Airport and photograph that runway, if I come back and they're basically flat, but for a bit of subsidy and like little bits of peaks and troughs, what would you do? You wouldn't accept it anyway. It would be a waste of my time. But I could do it because I can get around the back of the airport.
All you have to do is drop a laser down about a foot high, show it parallel that runway all the way down.
Well, you can just get the camera low to the back end of it and you can see that it's flat. No, you never showed the contrails you claimed, but I did. No, but to be fair, Sly, you did accept that contrails could be represented everywhere and anywhere. But you didn't address the clouds issue, Sly. And Sly, with regard to Manchester Airport, I could do it, but you wouldn't accept it if I did. So is there any point in me doing it? So anyway,
people arguing that runways are not flat?
Yeah, I said that runways are generally speaking flat because planes can't land on speed bumps, and Sly took issue with it, saying that they're not flat. And then there became an issue over whether flat meant level and level meant flat, because you can have a runway that's on an angle but still flat. And it got all like it ended up becoming really semantic. But my point was, runways are generally speaking flat, so planes cannot land on a speed bump. It's that simple.
They have to be very close to it. When you're recovering aircraft on an aircraft carrier, it's timed so the deck is as level as possible. Now it can be a little off, and they are off sometimes, but if you miss it, it could be life and death. So
yeah,
the runway, that's for sure.
Yeah, they've got to have a relatively flat runway. You over time the runways are going to subside because of subsidy, little bits, and they'll not be absolutely like meticulously flat, but they're flat enough for a plane to land. A plane cannot land on speed bumps, so any variations on the runways, it's not as much of a variation as a speed bump. They're flat, and the argument was that they're not flat, but they are flat, and I don't accept that they're not flat. So I still maintain my position, and I don't play with words, Basil. I just tell it as it is. Runways are flat. They've got to be flat because of the weight of the planes. So
it sounds like arguing just for the sense of arguing.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. It's like arguing over Blackpool Tower. They argue that you can't see the beach, but then miss the fact that you're seeing way more curve than you're supposed to be. Manchester has a 15-meter hill in the middle of the runway. 15-meter. I bet it 15-meter hill. Don't be ridiculous, Sly. Unless that M means something else. 15. It means
millimeters, maybe?
No, he hasn't 2 M's, so he must be talking meters. 15 meters of a hill in the middle of the runway. Do you know what I'm going to do? Just before he removes that, I'm going to snipping tool that, because that's a really good example of where Sly would be wrong. So that can form.
Go to Google Earth and touch any part of the runway and give the height above sea level, right?
Sly Sparkane. Let's just copy that message there. Save that. Invoice clips and I'll call it Sly. That might actually form my next video because of that ridiculous comment there.
Can't you do that though? Can't you go on Google Earth and click on the runway and it'll give you the height above sea level? So you can click all the way down and see if it's humped.
Look at what he's done here. He claims that there's a 15-meter variation across its 3.7-kilometer length. Yeah, but Sly, what you're identifying there, let's say there is a 15-meter variation across its 3.7-kilometer length. All you're doing is addressing the orientation of the runway. In other words, it's not true flat in terms of its orientation. It's still going to be flat. If you put a camera at one end of it, it's going to be flat. And you may get little peaks and troughs in the middle, but it's not going to be like a speed bump. So yeah, 15 meters from all it means is it's going slightly downhill or slightly uphill, but that doesn't mean it's got a big speed bump in the middle of it at 15 meters. Don't be ridiculous. You're misrepresenting geometry again, Sly. Anyway, this is what I get with them. To be honest, I actually quite like Sly. I don't agree with him on pretty much anything, but he actually makes good videos. His videos are better than yours, to be fair, Rich. You want to watch some of his videos, not the content, but the way he does it. It's quite good.
Yeah.
Sly says, yeah, go to Google Earth. Well, let's go to Google Earth, and I'll still maintain my position. If it's 15 meters different at one end of it, it doesn't mean it's speed bumps, mate. It just means that it's on a different pitch. It doesn't mean it's anything other than flat. So you're misrepresenting what flat and level means. Flat means flat, level means level, but the orientation of or the tilt of the runway can be on a different tilt, but it doesn't mean it's not flat. So you're arguing semantics.
Well, if it's spread out over 3 kilometers, it's not much anyway.
15 meters for a plane land. I don't know. I think 50 meters is a lot. That's like
50.
No, 15. I think he said 15 meters. That's quite a lot. In
45 feet over 3 kilometers.
Yeah,
it's still a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot. 15 meters of a hump in the middle, or 15 meters of variation. I mean, what he's basically arguing is that the top end of it, where the planes touch down initially, is 15 meters higher than where it comes to rest. But it's not going to be 50 meters, is it? It's just the plane that it's on is just tipped slightly one way or the other, and that's where the 15 minutes get the 15 meters gets its way from. Just seen this. Manchester Airport was originally known as Ringway Airport. Runway is 11 meters long and has a distinctive hump at the western end. Well, Maggie, I'll be able to find that out because I can get to the back end of it. I'm at Manchester Airport easily in half an hour. I can get there in half an hour, maybe 40 minutes. Flat Truth says Sly misrepresents things in his favor in almost all of his videos. Have you seen the video that he did against Rob Skiba, saying that Rob Skiba showed the curve of the Earth? Rich?
No.
It was really good. Rob Skiba did he sent a balloon up and he got it to about 110,000 feet before it popped. And when it came back down, it appears to be the case that when the balloon popped, it ripped out a camera that was attached to the bottom of his insulated box, and the camera that it ripped out was the one that they really wanted. So obviously everybody said it's fake.
Yes, I did see that. Yeah, the balloon where both of them showed a slight curve, or one of them showed a slight curve, and one of them was really a GoPro.
Yeah, and the one that showed a slight curve showed the same curve at like 100 feet. So it was like the argument that Sly said was, well, he's actually showing a bit of curve. It's not a lot of curve, but it's curve. And then when Rob showed the exact same level of curve at like 100 feet, he was like, it's barrel distortion, you Burke. And Sly was like, no. So he done a second debunk video, which I didn't really get a chance to watch. But hey, Riley, have you seen one of Antonio Subaratz's latest videos saying that the Gleason's map is wrong? No. But Antonio thinks that most of the maps are wrong, and I tend to agree with him in principle. Although in particularization, he probably might not be accurate, but he is right that none of the maps are right. So Gleason's map is generally accepted to be wrong anyway, but all maps appear to be wrong. They're my views on it. I am Uranus. No, it didn't. Wow. Yeah. Talk about distorted. To be honest, Sly, I may be misrepresenting you because I didn't see your second video on debunking it. I only watched Rob's video where he responded to your claim of debunking by saying it was barrel distortion, and I kind of accept that. I didn't watch your second video debunking him, so I'm not distorting the analysis. I'm making the point from a position of ignorance, and that's all. Anyway, so Anthony Riley,
what's the matter? You've got videos from 125,000 feet with no curve.
Yeah, I mean, they argue that there's no lens out there that's perfect, and I agree with most people. Well, certainly ICE's perception, which is we'll give you a little bit of curve at the edge of the lens, but you got to give us that boats don't disappear over the horizon on the beach. Because you're looking like however far you're looking at the horizon at 120,000 feet, you're looking a long distance, and there's no apparent curve. Yeah, they claim that boats are disappearing over the curve of the Earth at 6 miles.
See, that's That's why I don't care anymore if people want to believe it or not. People want to hang on to stuff like, no, they really do go over the horizon. When you show them they don't want to admit it. So it's like, use.
I am
You
Uranus.
deny reality.
I am Uranus has said, Antonio is a fellow flat earther. You disagree with each other. I disagree with Rich. I don't think that we have a Pac-Man model. But nobody really agrees on anything in flat earth because we don't have $60 million a day to work it out. If we had $60 million a day to work it out, I am Uranus. I'm sure we'd all be in unison, and we all can work out that there's no curve with a P900. So if we can do that with a P900, imagine what we could do with $60 million a day. I'm sure we could get some basic facts right, but whilst we don't have that money, it's allowed that we have more leeway to be wrong.
Well, apparently the $65 billion NASA has, they're not even sure of the size of the sun.
Yeah, the size of the sun appears to be a few hundred miles short of something, but it's not the fact that it's too far or too close, eh? It's the size of the sun they've got wrong. So what else are they saying? Sly has great videos. His lies are portrayed very creatively. Sly does have great videos. To be honest, they are well produced, and I've said that from day one. And generally, I do enjoy watching them. I just cringe when I watch some of his earlier stuff. Why would you need $60 million? For the same reason that NASA needs $60 million. If they're allowed $60 million, Sly, it's only fair that we would be allowed $60 million. Then we could get you a map. But at the minute, with a P900, we're kind of limited in what you can expect us to get with zero budget and a couple of P900s. Let's put it into perspective, eh? You know that thing that ball earthers struggle with? Perspective?
I think we've all done quite well.
Yeah, I think we've done quite well. We've managed to... I mean, the thing is, right, you can't make assertions without evidence to prove your position, right? And the assertion is that we live on a ball, that it spins, and that gravity is really a thing. And there is no evidence to support gravity. There is no evidence to support axial rotation. There is no evidence to support curve. All the evidence...
There is evidence against rotation.
Yeah, all the evidences that come to support those 3 points is not credible because we can verify the curvature one and it's not there. The axial rotation we can't verify, and the gravity we just can't verify unless we're in space, but we can't get to space because nobody's got any money. So
I would argue they've been verified.
You would argue
every time you launch the helium balloon, you verify gravity is wrong.
Yeah, well, Brenda doesn't think so. Brenda thinks that regardless of the density, gravity pulls everything to the Earth. So anyway,
well, I guess nothing would ever go up.
Nope, not according to Brenda. So this is a perfect example of how an echo chamber can fuck a guy up, Mr. Grimv. Well, actually, an echo chamber is a result of trolling. So if you're going to argue echo chambers, you've got to accept that trolling is the reason why echo chambers exist. And fucking a guy up. Listen, dude, you think that the Earth is a ball? I mean, who's fucked up here? One that knows that the Earth's not a ball, or one that still believes it is when he hasn't tested it himself? Who's fucked up? Me or you? What are you doing?
It's funny. We're the ones that have done actual work, and all they do is just parrot whatever they read on Google from ever.
Yeah, and it's funny when they all get into a chat together and they all buddy up with each other and they become a pack mentality where one of them says something that somebody else agrees with, and then five of them all agree with each other regardless of how accurate or correct it is. And if it's the official narrative, it's watertight. But can you imagine if a flat earther stuck two sticks in the ground, measured the shadows, and declared that the Earth was flat? It's ridiculous. And that is the ethos for where heliocentricity originally came from. They calculated the curve of the Earth from Earth-stopping these sticks in the ground into experiment, and that
isn't that the perfect example of how mathematics can do nothing but describe? It can't prove anything because you can use the same mathematics with those sticks to prove that the Earth is flat, and you can prove the same with the exact same sticks and mathematics that it's curved.
I'm just going to time out this guy called Mac Expert 74. He says, "You haven't tested anything, Riley. You only assert things." Mac, you're getting timed out because of your ignorance to me. I've been on and on and on about Blackpool Tower from 30 miles in tonight's chat, and I've been doing it for the last 12 months. I mean, Mac, dude, stop making assertions without evidence to support your position. But I agree with what Morky's just said. I'm not on any set model. It's speculation. I agree. I'm not on any particular model. I think that all models have got problems with them, including Ball Earth model, because we don't live on a ball. I have problems with Rich's the teleporting thing. I don't think that's the way it is either, because it makes no logical sense to me to assert that position, because it makes no, just because it seems to be impossible. But that being said, I haven't got anything better. So it's never been disproven.
We disagree. Goodbye.
Yeah, it's never been disproven. It probably can't be disproven, but I mean, the reality is we just don't know. But anybody that thinks that we live on a ball, I'd like to see the evidence that you accept to be true. Oh, there's a preponderance of evidence. Like what? Pictures from space. Right. Okay. So is that what you accept to be true? Yeah, because there's so many people that do it. I mean, you got all the satellites from China. Yeah, right. Okay. It's ridiculous. Anybody that argues about space, I mean, what's your view when people argue about space being the authority?
I can't get past how you push against nothing.
Yeah, like a jet ski. When you take a jet ski out of the water, how does it work?
How does that? I mean, you've seen balls out physics, right?
Yeah, Brian.
Who's got the degrees in that area, and yet people don't want to believe it. And I thought Brian is always very well, maybe there's another way or whatever. And when you get to the point where he talks about propulsion in space, he always tries to leave room. I mean, he's aghast at for how it would work. How would it work? How do you push against nothing? That's where we are in our day, as far as we know anyway, with our technology. You have to push against something to make something move.
It's like a jet ski in water. Take a jet ski out of water and it doesn't propel itself because it needs the water to push against.
It's like we haven't advanced really since the steam engine. Heated water.
Slice Barcane is saying in chat, wait, photos are now no good. What does that say about yours? Trouble is though, Sly, you can reproduce mine. You can't reproduce anything in space. I'm feeling the need to just remind people of this particular song. So if you're going to argue that photos are evidence, that is evidence. Somebody said that photos are evidence. Yeah, but how do you get past the space maybe a final frontier, but it's built in a Hollywood basement? Which do you go with? Do you go with the photos, or do you go with the narrative, which everyone seems to believe to be true, that space is fiction, science fiction, like that?
What do you do with the photos of Chicago from 45 miles?
Yeah, they argue that it's bendy light again, don't they?
Pardon me?
They argue that it's bendy lights and like weird atmospherics. Sly, what if I say that you faked your photos of Blackpool Tower at 30 miles? I'd say, Sly, go and verify them yourself. You can do it. Go and stand where I stood on a reasonably clear night. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just needs to not be misty or cloudy, and you can repeat the observation yourself. And the other thing I would say is that if you assert that
you're right, Anthony, that is the difference. What we do, for the most part, can be repeated.
Yes.
Anybody can go out with a thermometer and put it in moonlight, or with the laser thermometer, shoot it at something in the moonlight versus anybody can do these things.
Yeah.
And yet we're the ones that are not scientific.
And the other thing is, Sly, if you were to say that I faked mine, then that is basically asserting that I lied in some way, which is fine. But if you do that, then you've got to show that I had the intention to deceive people, because that's part of the criteria of a lie, an intention to deceive anybody. But the reality is, you can go to that then GPS positions that I gave you. You can point your camera in the right position, zoom in, and you'll see that tower from 30 miles, and it doesn't do what they tell us it does. And Sly, no, you don't know that I did the first time. That video, that thing you didn't prove that we were looking. Didn't prove whether we were looking at the tower or not. He said I was in a different place, but if I was in a different place, I'd have seen that tower again, and I've never seen it since. So that position's wrong. But I didn't respond to it because I couldn't be asked, because it's a moot point in regards to the preponderance of evidence that has been obtained since. Hoylake, I lied. No, his interpretation was wrong, and I didn't address it because he did it the way he did it was sneaky, which is why the video was removed by force by YouTube, because he invaded my privacy. It's not worth me dealing with.
You had a video removed?
No, I didn't. Dazza, the cameraman, did. He invaded he recorded something that was done off air. He recorded it without my knowledge and then uploaded it and claimed that it was a debunk, which Sly obviously believes to be true. But what he didn't realize was that that which he said was false was explained in two other ways, and Sly ignores the other two ways that it could be, and wants to believe the one that Dazza, the cameraman, cited because it suited his argument best. But Paper Explanator says that I'm happy to call Soundly a liar. Paper, I'll be coming back to Soundly in the next couple of days. I now know not just what Soundly's done, I also now know how he's done it. So yes, I can call him a liar because I have got the evidence that proves he's done something, and now I know what he's done. So in the next couple of days, when I catch up with Nummy Num, he'll be showing not only what the evidence is, he'll be showing how he's done it, and he'll show you why that's true. So Paper Explanator, yes, I am happy to call Soundly a liar because he's faked that evidence. That evidence is not real. So
what does that have to do with
that we shouldn't really call each other liars unless you can prove intent, and I can prove that if somebody's falsifying evidence to support a particular position, if I can prove that he's faked evidence, then that proves that he is lying, because why would you fake evidence? But I can prove.
So you're going to do a video on that?
Hey, say again?
You're going to do a video on that?
Well, I've had about 5 videos on it recently.
Have you?
Yeah. There was a thing about the birds and the nest not parallaxing the way that they should do. They were basically to the pixel the exact same as what they were as he moved around, and they should have moved, and they didn't move at all. So there's loads of things wrong with Soundly stuff, but I'm not going to go into it now because it takes ages. But
that's all right. I'll catch up.
Yeah, I mean, we know that Soundly's faked that evidence, and I knew that it was wrong, but I just didn't know why. But now I do know why. I know what technique he's used. I know how he's done it, and I can prove it because of the signature marks that are left. So Sly says, wait, you know that he's lying, but someone else did it. Isn't that an echo? Well, most people looking at Sambley's work kind of know that he's lying about it in some way, just don't know what. But Nummy's gone away and worked it out. So somebody else has done it. Isn't it an echo? Yeah, it's an echo, but the evidence is the evidence, mate. It doesn't matter who echoes it. As long as the evidence is there to support the assertion, then it's there. Doesn't matter who says it. So what he's doing now, Nummy, is he's going to apply the evidence that Soundly's got against real footage that hasn't been altered to show what it should look like when it's not been altered. Because if he shows what it's like on stuff that has been manipulated, but you've got nothing to compare it against, then everyone's going to call it inconclusive. So he's going away to measure it against stuff that's good, so that he can come back and say, there you go. So I just need to move the dog 1 sec. Read. Sly says, so then go to the lake and see how that works. I don't need to go to the lake. If we can see the signature marks, the hallmarks of fake. I mean, we knew that it was fake in the first place, but we just didn't know what. But now we know exactly what he's done and we can prove it. So I don't need to go to the lake to discredit his work. I just need to discredit his work. And then I don't need to go to the lake. It's to do with the cyclist and the magical cyclist that appears out of nowhere. And there was, what was the other thing? Oh, a guy that was walking in the background and it looked like he was on like a film set. It was really weird. But it's a long story. I'm not going to go into now because it's just not worth it. Well, Sly says, oh, wait, you just argued that you need to go and do it yourself. Well, there's two ways that you can discredit evidence. You can discredit it on the grounds of it being wrong, and then you can discredit the evidence on it being fake. So if you discredit it on being wrong, that means you've got to go there, you do it yourself. But if you can't go there and do it yourself, it means that you have to discredit it on the grounds of being fake. But on that Soundly stuff, it looks like it's fake. And then that's where we looked at. We started looking at the evidence and seeing where it took us. And Nummy's the one that's done all the work. But I agree, the evidence is there. So Paper Explainer says that I'm clutching at straws. Well, actually, no, we're dissecting the evidence and showing what he's done. So maybe not all of his photos or evidences are wrong, but there are certain ones that are. So, and we can prove it. Slide, but that's my.
I take it the evidence was supposed to show a curve.
Say again.
I take it the evidence was supposed to show a curve.
Oh yeah, like a basketball. It was that curved. I mean, if it was the curve that Soundly claims to show is that severe that we live on summit the size of Pluto. So it's like it's ridiculous. I mean, this is why I knew it was wrong, because I mean I've got my own evidence at nearly 30 miles and it shows virtually no curve, and he's got curve that's like way bigger than what it should be, and he's even had it modeled by Cara from Earth Discussions 2.0, and she models it and it claims to be exactly the same, and it's like, what? It's ridiculous. So something's going wrong somewhere. I don't know what Cara's done, but I don't trust Cara's work either, even though she's modeled it on a 3D model. I don't believe that she's done it right. But I'm not going to go into the Cara thing because I have no evidence on the Cara thing, and I don't need to have any evidence if I can attack Soundly's. Anyway, so where are we at now then? Are you back online permanently now, Rich?
I hope so. Seems like every time I get everything cleared away, something else pops up. But I think I'm good to go. I've got redundant internet now.
So what about a job?
That should be taken care of.
What about a job? Are you
What about what?
What do you do for a living now? Are you working or are you out of work or what?
No, I'm waiting on a disability decision.
Oh yeah, I remember. Bloody hell, that's been going on a while.
Yeah, it's been going on, let's see. They were supposed to expedite it last month. That got denied, so they tried to expedite it again. So I don't know. It's been going on for 18, 19 months, something like that.
Yeah. So
it's all backwards.
Have your kids grown up?
What it is people that rip off the system don't. You sort of have to speak their lingo somehow or know the system. I don't know if I told you this. My father was an alcoholic, and when he was about 30 years old, he went and told a judge he had bad nerves and needed disability. They gave it to him immediately.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it?
Here I get migraines 19 days a month is what I average. Did a 3-month study on me. Moderate to severe migraines, 19 days a month. Some days, some months, the entire month I have a migraine. Anyway, first I had a doctor who didn't want to sign the papers because sign it, they keep making you sign them over and over, and they do. What's new this month? It's just a big drag out thing, and the people that legitimately need it don't get it because of the people that have ripped off the system.
Yeah, it's the same over here.
Trump wants to do a forced physical exam, which I didn't know that they couldn't do that. There's no forced physical. I would love for them to do a physical exam. I've got other stuff wrong with me besides migraines, but I'm all for that, because if somebody would have actually examined me the first month, they would have seen I wasn't trying to rip off the system, and I've been taking for months, and not months, years now. Not only that, but the different therapies, and I get Botox every 90 days, which is lovely to get shots in your head every 90 days. But you'll do anything when you got them that bad. But I've been through the ringer with testing and trying to figure out what's going on. And I just recently had radio frequency ablation, which is where they go in and they kill the nerves off. But that only lasts 7 months. That's already starting to wear off. So it's just stuff I have to deal with.
What do you think of this one? Almost all disease of the human body is caused by eating meat, dairy, and oil.
I would say almost all disease in the human body is caused by disease in the brain, as far as your emotional standing and things like that. As far as meat and dairy, as screwed up as the food system is now, I don't know. I would say I don't think so. I think if you have the way meats and stuff were supposed to be, I don't think it would be an issue. I don't think there's anything wrong with eating meats. I know a lot of people have problems with that, but I don't.
I don't have problems with it. I love meat. It's one of the best things about life, I think. And if you look at people that don't eat meat, they generally look too thin and look ill, in my opinion. But I also think that most of the diseases that are caused in the human body are usually caused by chemicals like aspartame, fluoride, and things like sugar. Too much sugar. Sugar is a killer. Sugar is the biggest poison out there. So
yeah, fructose corn syrup too. That's sugar on steroids.
Sugar, fluoride, aspartame, a variety of bad chemicals. I think they're more dangerous to you, to be honest, than meat, dairy, and oil. And
all the radio frequencies we're exposed to now.
Yeah, Antonio believes in that kind of stuff. He believes that the cell phones and the wireless technologies causing him issues, but I'm not sure I'm with that. Pete Shea, I met Patricia. She's female. You've heard about transvestigation, haven't you, Rich?
Pardon me?
You've heard about the transvestigation.
Transvestigation.
Yeah, Antonio Subrat.
I've heard of an accusation.
Yeah, Antonio Subrat and Patricia Steer were together for a while, and they split up for whatever reason, and they've gone their separate ways. And it appears that Antonio's called her a post-operative transsexual, and said stuff that are really unkind about her, etc. But nay, she's a woman. She's old as well. And I say old, I don't mean it in a bad way, but she's old as in, like, yeah, I've met Patricia in real life. She's female. She's female as... But Antonio reckons that, oh no, well, it's not the case once you get behind the knickers. But I didn't get behind the knickers, obviously, but you can tell by looking at somebody if there's dodgy elements to them, and she's female. She might have had a bit of work done to her in terms of facelifts or whatever, I don't know, but she's female. There's pictures all over the internet. Mark Sargent's put pictures up from when she was a child. She's female. So yeah, I'm sure of Pete. I'm sure she's female. She's as female as they come. So
that's a major reason why I don't get into too many other videos, because so many people get into the mix out of it, so to speak, personal politics and cliques and different things like that. I know I've already been several times just guilty by association. You know, I'm going to the Flat Earth Conference, and whoever else is there, whoever's got issues, I think Patricia Steer is going there. So now I'm guilty by association of a transgender, I guess.
Yeah, well,
I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. I don't know enough about these other people to like them or don't like them.
Well, let me address Pete's last comment, and then I'm not going to touch the topic again. Pete says, a transsexual with a ramshackle vagina, wouldn't Antonio know better? 2 comments. 1, yeah, Antonio may know better. But the thing is, who's got the axe to grind? Patricia's behaved perfectly and impeccably with that split. Has Antonio behaved impeccably? Hasn't he got... It would be a fair argument to say that he's got more of an axe to grind. I think that's a fair comment. But secondly, I mean, even if she did have a ramshackle vagina, what difference does it make? Really, what difference does it make? I could have 2 testicles, 1 testicle, or 3 testicles. What difference does it make? None. And even if she did have, so what? Wouldn't it? If she did have a ramshackle vagina, wouldn't it fall worse on Antonio for accepting it? I think it's nobody's business whether she is or whether she's not, and I think we should drop it because it's a ridiculous argument anyway. Whether she is or whether she's not, it makes no difference. It's like if you wear a wig or if you have a spare leg, a false leg. What difference does it make? None. Absolutely none. She or he is an actor on the Flat Earth stage at any rate. All roads lead to Mark Sargent. Well, do you know what? One of them may well be an actor, but it doesn't. Like I say, it doesn't make any difference to me. I can't be arsed with the politics of it. I met Patricia in real life. As far as I'm concerned, she's a woman, and I've got no reason to think that she's a bloke in disguise or whatever. So it doesn't make any. Honestly, Pete, just forget about it, man. There's better things to spend your time on in terms of Flat Earth. We could be chested for trying to find curvature, because that's all good fun. Kind tongue-in-cheek, Anthony. I think the words ramshackle vagina is funny. Yeah. Kind tongue-in-cheek. I'm not sure it's kind tongue-in-cheek. It might be tongue-in-cheek, but I'm not sure it's kind. But I think Patricia deserves more respect, because Patricia's only nice as far as I'm concerned. Hi, Fruity, you. Thank you. For what? Hi, Fruity. Rich, what's your next video? Have you got anything lined up?
Yeah, I'm going to talk about transgender flat earthers.
Featuring...
I've got... I really don't know why people have to be mean to other people. I just don't get it.
Neither do I. I mean, we can disagree with each other without falling out. We can fall out with each other without being horrible. There's no reason to be horrible. Even with... I mean, look at Captain Bullshit. Jamie Brown had a hangout, and I don't know the facts of it, but there was a copyright issue, and Jamie Brown got banned for 90 days by Captain Bullshit. Now, I don't know the ins and outs of it, and it's irrelevant. The point was, we shouldn't be fucking... No one knows. Nobody knows who we're talking talking about. Nobody knows whether we live on a ball or flat. It doesn't appear to be a ball. May not be flat. It may be polo shaped. We don't know. And they're doing a bloody good job at hiding it. So the reality is, none of us really know. So none of us should be doing copyright strikes against each other because nobody's losing. Most of us are not monetized, and even if we are monetized, Captain Bullshit's not got a lot of subs, and he benefited more than anybody. And it was a video even about me. So I mean, if anyone's going to be pissed off with the video, it should have been me. But I actually find it funny. But copyright strikes between low hanging fruit on flat Earth or ball Earth, it's ridiculous. Nobody's losing any money.
How can you copyright a flat Earth video?
It was a parody video. He was Captain Bullshit was taking the piss out of me. I've got a hot tub in the back garden, and when I was in the hot tub, he's captured it at the right angle on the right photo just to make it not a flattering picture. But to be honest, I don't really care. It was funny. I laughed at it. But I don't know whether it's Jamie played it or whether somebody else in Jamie's chat played it, but whatever it was happened. Captain Bullshit said, I'm not happy with that, and told Jamie to take it down. Jamie says he never received it, but Captain Bullshit was blocked from his channel, so I don't think he would have received it. Captain Bullshit thought that it was being ignored, issued the copyright strike after a couple of 3 or 4 days, and Jamie got banned for 90 days for it. And it's like, whoa, come on. So in the end, Captain Bullshit got a bit of pressure and he's took it back. Jamie's now deleted that video, and now we're back to square one again, and Jamie's not banned. But again, Captain Bullshit would have benefited from it. I was the one that was on the receiving end of it. Captain Bullshit benefited from it. Jamie was probably not really arsed either way. But it just shows that really Captain Bullshit was just being an arse because it was his video and he did it because he could, because he didn't suffer any loss from it whatsoever. He just wanted to be an arse, really. So it's like,
Is this people you picked up in the swamp?
Captain Bullshit, yeah, I picked him up. He's a leech from Earth Discussions 2.0. Yeah, but they do the rounds, don't they? Once they latch onto a couple of people, they generally stay on them couple of people for all the time. Until
I've never seen anything like your channel as far as like-dislike ratio.
Nah, do you know what? It's because of Earth Discussions.
I mean, some of the stuff is like that. I mean, you do videos where you're not doing anything that I would think would, well, everybody does that. Why people just go in there to dislike just to do it?
Yeah, of course they do. It's just the MO, isn't it? I mean, tonight's chat with you is 55 up, 30 down, which is better than I expected, to be honest. I did a bit of thinking this afternoon, a bit of radio spinning some tunes. I don't know if you saw that, but that was 57 up, 23 down. But a lot of my earlier videos were like 30 down, 5 up.
Oh, yeah. When I first saw your channel, I was like, what the heck are you doing? All you did was come out of the swamp.
You have to laugh at it, though, because it doesn't matter, does it? I mean, again, I make the point that we don't know what we live on. We're told it's one thing, but it's demonstrably not. Yet people support it no matter what, because that's what they believe to be true. But when you go out and test it and you realize that it's not that, so it's like, well, what is it? And none of us know. So it's like, we just don't really know what the hell we're going on about. So
that is really my question, is why do you hang on to it? Why are you so desperate to hang on to that model when obviously there's no evidence? There is evidence. Why the vitriol? I just don't get it.
The thing is, right, the assertions live on a spinning ball that orbits the sun, right? Now, if assertions are made, you have to have evidence that proves that. And there is no proof. They cannot prove it. They don't prove curve. They don't prove rotation. They don't prove gravity. Yet everybody seems to believe it. Why is that? It's ridiculous.
It's the $1 million question.
Yeah, $1 million question that loads of people seem to have the answers for, but no evidence to prove it. And Spank Me very much says ball Earth is just another religion. Totally agree. I think the answer to your question is, why do people hold on to it for so long? I think it's because they don't want to accept that they've been lied to and fell for it. They don't want to accept it. It's crazy.
Well, it's like once they put a stake in the ground too, there's no pulling it out again.
Yeah.
If they come on early, no, I'm against this. I don't know. I don't know why people can't. It amazes me that people won't go where the evidence. I had nothing to gain and everything to lose when all of a sudden I did a flat Earth video on my channel, which I didn't talk anything about flat Earth on my channel, and I had no idea that it was popular. I mean, it's not that, you don't want your boss to see it. There's nothing positive about it. But when I saw somebody saying a superior mirage, and that would require the biggest in history inversion in the atmosphere, a mile thick inversion in the atmosphere to produce what that guy was saying, I knew it was bullshit. And you just got to go where the evidence takes you. It's just none of the. I mean, when you have an inversion, if you're going to have it 5,000 feet deep, which is what that's required at minimum for Chicago,
yeah, it
would be the worst kind of weather you never see across the lake anyway. That kind of inversion.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, it is ridiculous. I mean, I'm looking at when I do the Blackpool Tower obs, I'm looking at what I see as the tower, and it's the way it looks. But it goes through your mind. Am I looking around the curve of the Earth? Am I getting bendy light? And you're looking at it and you're thinking, could it be curved and it's bending around the curve? The perfect rate is that matches the curvature of the Earth. And you're looking at it and you're like, does it balls? You're looking at it the way it looks. There's no trickery involved, but they're trying to tell you it's trickery. It is ridiculous. Yeah. Right, Rico, it's 11:30 here at night. It's been long enough.
I enjoyed it.
Say again.
But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I know that Jamie's thinking of going live right after this. And I don't want to get too late because I don't want Jamie up till like 3 a.m. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it up. So I just want to say thank you for coming back on. It's been good to get you back. Looking forward to seeing some more videos. Keep up the good work, because I mean you were one of the main people that I watched all the videos of right in the early days, and I didn't agree with you on some of the stuff, and I still don't necessarily agree with you on some stuff now, but I think that we can agree that it's okay to disagree between people if you do it properly. And I think even if we don't agree with stuff and we disagree properly, that is the way that we all should be doing it, because there is no reason to hate anybody. There's no reason to be vitriolic. No one knows. I don't know. I don't think Rich knows. We both admit it, but it's certainly not a ball. And the minute you realize that there is no curve, that's when you realize that you are being lied to. And I would encourage everybody to go out there and test it, because we're not getting the curve that they tell us, and it is testable. We can test it. Yeah. So Rich, I agree with you. Rich, I just want to thank you for coming on, and I want to thank the audience for coming in, including the ballers that were giving shit in chat. It was quite quiet actually tonight. We didn't have the usual rabbling. So I just want to thank everyone for coming in chat. And
thanks to everybody.
I want to pass over to Jamie Brown because he's going live now. So follow the links in chat with Jamie, and I'll catch you up in a bit in Jamie's chat. I'm going to wrap it up with Rich now, and I'll see you all again in the next couple of days, I guess. So thanks very much for coming, guys. That's the end of the chat for tonight, and we'll see you soon.
Take care, guys.
Bye-bye for now, guys.